太阳红呀红彤彤哎，心中的太阳是毛泽东哎，他领导我们的解放哎，真理翻身当家做主人，咿呀咿自由呀呀自由啊，真理翻身当家做主人。天上太阳红呀红彤彤哎，心中的太阳是毛泽东哎，他领导我们奋勇前进哎，革命江山一片红哎，咿呀咿自由呀呀自由啊，革命江山一片红。解放哎，真理翻身当家做主人，咿呀咿自由呀呀自由啊，真理翻身当家做主人。天上太阳红呀红彤彤哎，心中的太阳是毛泽东哎，他领导我们奋勇前进哎，革命江山一片红哎，咿呀咿自由呀呀自由啊，革命江山一片红。 像太阳，红呀红彤彤哎，心中的太阳是毛泽东哎，他领导我们奋勇前进哎，革命江山一呀一片红哎，嗦啦啦子嗦啦啦子一呀一片红哎。
来。 You didn't think I would be gone forever, did you? I am the Commander-in-Chief of the Guerrilla Army. And if I'm gone for a long time, it's for good reason. But first and foremost, pay no attention to this, because this is a work in progress. This is nowhere near complete. But I wanted to give you guys something before I made my return stream after a long few weeks of moving. And I have been fucking moving for that's been all of my time. But I want you guys to know that everything I do in my life, every ounce of consideration I have taken when it comes to where I move, what I move into, what I'm doing, it is all for the show. It is all for the show, okay? And all of the money you guys send me, almost all of it gets reinvested, okay? Whether it's getting new equipment or a better setup, I want to take it to the next level, because that is where infrared has actually gone, to the next level. So I wanted to give, I'm not a saver. Everything you guys send me, I put it back. Thank you so much, Tug. Appreciate you.
An army of the people is invincible.
Thank you so much. Also, Mason, for the 20. I appreciate it so much, man. Adrian, thank you so much. Xiongyu, thank you so much, man. Appreciate it.
Welcome back.
Thank you so much,
nice
Xiongyu.
Studio.
So, guys, this is going to be upgraded. Even these stools are going to be upgraded, okay? This is just temporary right now. This is just the temporary setup. Even the lights are going to be upgraded. But I want to give you a taste of what this is going to look like, because infrared is getting serious. We're getting seriously red, okay? This is not any longer just some shit I'm going to be doing in my apartment, or just some shit that I'm going to be doing casually, whatever, here and there, traveling. No, this is, my ass is going to be glued to this seat, whether it's recording videos, editing videos, or streaming. More on that in a second. For a long time, for the very long foreseeable future. So the content is coming back. I know that it's been a fucking drought, okay? I get it. I get a lot of bad shit has happened. Russia retreated from Kherson, and it seems like it's a big fucking disaster right now. The midterms were a huge fucking disaster. We've been low on fucking energy, and the show's stagnating a little bit. Don't fucking worry, guys. I was just fucking moving, and I'm back, and I'm serious, and we're gonna make this a thing. Thank you so much, Wing Numina. Appreciate you. No matter what it fucking takes. You understand? We're gonna fucking do this. As you can see, I'm wearing my fucking... Thank you so much, Daniel. Appreciate you, man.
Congrats on
Appreciate
the
you
move
so
and the new
much.
setup.
Okay, guys? I moved in, so the hard part is fucking over. Thank you so much, Janar.
To the stream. From the stream.
The hard part's fucking over. And I finished last night specifically. But I finished at 10:30. Thank you so much, Lido.
Dragon Web.
So in terms of moving all my shit in and setting up my computer, I finished that last night. But I said, no, I'm going to stream today, earlier. Thank you so much, Hassan. Appreciate you.
Triple S.
Thank you so much, man. Thank you so much. Okay? So, guys, we're going to get fucking serious. Thank you so much, Crack Dealer. Thank you so much. Now, I know I've been very active in the Discord telling you guys what's been going on and what the situation has been, but I didn't want anyone. Thank you so much,
Demetrion. With the new setup.
Appreciate you.
Communist HQ.
Oh, yeah, this is an HQ. And, guys, this room is way bigger than it looks. I have the camera position. I'm zoomed in right now, first of all, and I'm just focusing on, like, a small part of the room right now, right? But this is going to be looking like an official headquarters, and it's going to have the red lights, and you're going to get a taste of what this is going to be. But guys, I have been working so hard to get this set up, to get moved in. Thank you so much, Johnny. Appreciate you.
More additional funding for the Khan's base of operations.
Thank you so much, Johnny. Appreciate you so much. Let me put it this way, guys, to put this into some perspective. I had this room painted white, okay? I had this painted white, pure white, and it took a few days to actually complete for some reason, just for the sake of the streaming. And the lighting in here is crazy. It's just I'm not going to turn on my lights right now because whatever. But I'll have the lights on sometimes when we're on a different mood. But guys, it's getting serious, and I want to talk about the external situation because holy fuck, a lot has been happening, and I could sense people are low on spirits. I can sense you guys are low on spirits, and you want to know how I fucking know that? I know that because I'm low on spirits too. Okay? So don't fucking worry. If you're low on spirits right now because of what's going on in Kherson or what's going on generally, globally, with the midterm elections, it seems like the Democrats are now unstoppable. DeSantis is on the fucking move. It seems like the Maga movement is dead. It seems like it's a really bad fucking situation for us, guys. But guess what? You have to take a broader perspective, and you need to have a bigger point of view than just this little narrow bout that we seem to be going through, because there is so much more to be understood. There's so much more to be clarified. Thank you so much, Arwell. Appreciate you.
Folded hands. Welcome
Guys,
back.
if you
We
guys are
appreciate
happy
you.
that I'm back, you have no idea how it feels to be streaming again. Every single day I have been, even as much as I've been working to move into this new place of mine, I have been completely devastated that I haven't been able to stream. I'm so happy I have my desktop back. I'm not streaming on a laptop anymore. I got a new monitor. So I got, I'm using my dual display monitors. Might even triple it because I have an old monitor. I just ordered a bigger desk. The Yeti might stay for the foreseeable future just because of how iconic it is. But, there's a lot in the works going on right now in terms of stuff that's being... So don't worry, this is not the final setup, but I know it looks cool as fuck, doesn't it, right? This looks very cool. But anyway, guys, the enemy seems to be winning right now. That's what we should talk about right now, because I know everyone's been feeling it. Everyone seems to be low on morale. Everyone seems to be taking black pills. Everybody seems to be questioning, well, what the fuck is going on? And, something happened in the Telegram, which I'm also going to talk about. And I'm going to actually go into a deep dive and discuss this and we can't talk about it too much on YouTube, but I mentioned something about globalism and how when we say globalism, everyone jumps on the bandwagon and thinks we're talking about Jewish people or Jews. Thank you so much, Mason.
All
Appreciate you.
anarchists are rich kids.
Yeah. So, thank you so much, Mason. So, and then, it just swarmed, right? And that's also a sign of low fucking morale. It's not a fucking coincidence. The MAGA movement is being defeated. DeSantis is on the fucking march. So people are resorting to despair and nonsense instead of a clear and sober analysis of the political situation. And I know this because I've been feeling it too. For some fucking reason, the month of November has been immensely cursed. But I will make you this vow with my right fucking hand with my hand to my fucking heart and my hand raised. I will make you this fucking vow. Infrared will be a content tsunami and a content machine to wage the info war in favor of the American working class to the very fucking end. And that much you can count on. I'm going to be here with you throughout every step of the way. Through the DeSantis deception, through the Meghan Markle plans, more on that, because that's resurfaced, if you can fucking believe it, through the struggle to regain the Communist Party, CPUSA 2036, I am going to be here every step of the fucking way. And every single day, now that I moved in, I can get back on my fucking grind, and I could do so comfortably, okay? I could do so comfortably because I don't have to worry about my fucking laptop or any of that. But I could see how incredibly loud I am right now. And I wonder if that's because my filters are... No, they're not off. My filters are not off. So, I'm just fucking loud. Deal with it, okay? But, yes. And I got this Yeti stand. I got a bunch of shit, right? My desk is crystal clear. I'm not even close to being done. And I have some more good news. This is actually going to be turned into a full-blown studio, which means there's going to be room for guests and another mic, and the camera will capture both of us, and I can do in real life, in-person interviews here, okay? So we have a lot to be excited for going forward. And it is going to be an infrared November. That much I can guarantee. I can guarantee to you it is going to be an infrared November. Let's be a little bit more professional here and button up my shirt. One last finishing detail I didn't quite get. But now I'm a full futuristic Maoist. You understand? This aesthetic, Maoist Stalinism. You understand? I'm a fucking Stalinist, and I want my aesthetic to reflect that, okay? I'm a futuristic Stalinist, okay? This is going to be the red infrared November. We have a lot to talk about, from the CPUSA stuff, which we have not given up on, to the question of where do we go forward as far as the Maga communist strategy is concerned. Because it seems like a lot of people have not so much forgotten about the Maga communist strategy, but are a little bit confused about where to go forward. So in this stream, I'm going to provide you guys a bunch of clarity as far as where we should take this Maga communism strategy and what the next step is, now that we have finished it. And I've actually discussed this with some of the more dedicated community members. Not to say that the people who I didn't discuss it with weren't dedicated, but just a specific, group of people. I talked to them. And it's very clear that in terms of things that can shock the left, and in terms of ways in which we could trigger the left, we have run into our limit as far as the left is concerned. I've talked about this a lot of times, but this finished with Maga communism. And a lot of people don't know this, but Maga communism was pursued as a new orientation because of the left's response to the murder of Daria Dugina. That was my final nail. For years, it seemed like, probably 1 year, 2 years, a year and a half, we have been hinting at Maga communism. They were like, oh, these are patriotic socialists, and they seem to be reactionaries, and they seem to have chauvinistic views. And we never fully came out and said we want to pursue Maga communism, but after the ordeal with the Patsock Dems, after what the left did, after a bunch of other things, now we are in a position of clarity. And the time for provoking leftists, I can't predict the future, but if I were a betting man and I were to make a prediction, it seems like the time to provoke leftists has come to an end. It seems like the time for triggering them is over. There's not much we can do by way of shocking leftists in terms of conjoining contrary associations. MAGA, communism, Ron Paul, Maoism, patriotic, socialism, whatever, right? We are past that, and now is the time for a positive strategy of where to go forward. Because, and this is why I've been so upset about my inability to stream. I don't know if I thanked you, Emirio, for the 50, but thank you so much, man. I appreciate it. Now, this is why I've been so hung up on this problem, okay? Because we are actually witnessing, and I'm not going to sugarcoat this for you. I'm not going to beat around the bush. We are genuinely witnessing the death of the MAGA movement. It's a real thing that's going on. The MAGA movement is in decline. It is scattering. It is scattering to the winds as DeSantis is rising. Now, the reasons for that, I cannot necessarily talk about on YouTube in the fullest extent. But let's just say, when it comes to the midterms that we just had, it was quite interesting. And that's all I'm going to say, is that it was interesting. But that doesn't even matter. If you catch my drift, you catch my drift. But that doesn't even matter, right? Because the MAGA movement is facing a crisis of a lack of unity. It's facing a crisis of a lack of a central idea and a lack of a central coherent vision that holds it together and, more importantly, distinguishes it from DeSantis. What really distinguishes Maga from DeSantis? It's not very clear when DeSantis seems to have tried to co-opt all of the culture war positions of the Maga movement. So where do we go forward from here? What is the path forward? What is the strategy forward? Maga is dwindling and it's disintegrating and it's scattering to the fucking wind. You can call me crazy. You can call me crazy. But I don't think we should just let it happen. I don't think we should just let this happen. I think we should actually take a stand and try to intervene in reality. And this is probably the first time I've told you this. We should actually try to intervene here and stop the scattering of MAGA by being at the vanguard. At the vanguard. And this is an issue of utmost importance. And I got cut off in my very last stream, if you remember, talking about this. It is of utmost importance. Put aside the current political polarization. Put aside being scared to appear one way. I mean this very sincerely. Ron DeSantis is the name of the enemy right now. Ron DeSantis is their chosen guy. Ron DeSantis is going to be the future of America. Mark my fucking words. I see what direction the money is going in. I see how all of these rhino and establishment Republicans are putting all their fucking bets behind DeSantis. I see which way the wind is blowing. Even centrist liberals are rallying behind DeSantis. This is the DeSantis deception that I have been talking about for a very long time. But we need to do something quite unprecedented. We need to forget about the Democratic Party for a second because that party is buried. And I know you might contest this because of the results of the midterms. And then I might point out that you should check the Google results for Diane Sayre's election for governorship of New York between the night and the morning after. And that's all I'm going to say about the explanation for why the Democrats had a sweeping success in the midterms. The MAGA movement had a horrible defeat, and then coincidentally, because we live in a democracy, a free and fair democracy, where nothing ever bad happens. I'm not questioning anything, don't worry. I would never question anything. But coincidentally, Ron DeSantis did extremely well in his race in Florida for governorship. Quite coincidentally, Ron DeSantis did extremely well in Florida. So here's what I'm going to tell you. We need to be at the vanguard, and we need to prioritize this. We need to be at the vanguard of the movement to expose and shed light on who Ron DeSantis is and what he represents. We are grabbing the snake in its fucking tracks, and we're not going to wait for the fucking primaries. We're not going to wait a year. We're going to do it now, and we're going to be ahead of the fucking curve. Ron DeSantis is the enemy, and we need to come together and spread the fucking message and prioritize exposing DeSantis. And I notice I didn't stutter. I'm saying prioritize exposing DeSantis even before we expose the Democrats. I'm saying Ron DeSantis is a bigger threat than the Democratic Party. Incredible coming from me, isn't it? But we have to realistically appraise the situation. Everyone knows who the Democrats are, and they have long been exposed. Their insanity is simply condemned to the dustbin of history, and I don't really think we have to worry about it in its current form. But the evil and the sickness of the Democrats' agenda is going to be transferred to DeSantis. And people need to be aware of this. The only way, first and foremost, even before we talk about the MAGA communism strategy, first and foremost, the only way MAGA is going to be salvaged is if we prioritize distinguishing the MAGA movement from DeSantis. You guys need to start learning how to talk to people about DeSantis. You need to learn to talk to people about how DeSantis, despite his very strange and coincidental policies during COVID, he has always been a swamp Republican. He has always been a swamp Republican. Always. Now, let me explain this to you guys if you don't understand this. As far as the political history of Ron DeSantis is concerned, he's always been a neoconservative. He's always been an establishment swamp Republican who is always on the same page with the status quo about just about everything. He has never once deviated from the globalist agenda. Not once. Not in a way that George Bush didn't, at least. He was just as much fighting globalists as George W. Bush. He's never deviated from their agenda. He's always been in lockstep. He's always been a neoconservative. He's always been in lockstep with their agenda. Then the pandemic happens, and all of a sudden, Ron DeSantis is a populist, and he's a freedom fighter, and he's a champion for the people. Now, you tell me if you really believe in the authenticity of that. Ron DeSantis, who has these extreme ties to the deep state, these profound ties to the deep state, he is the most spooky, glowy fucking guy you can imagine. The pandemic comes around the corner. You know, the thing that was totally not planned beforehand? You know that thing? Well, he just so happens to assume a position that was wildly popular and that made people trust him as a freedom fighter and a populist fighting for the people. Now, you tell me if you believe that story. You tell me if you don't think there's more to that story. I certainly have my questions, but you go ahead and tell me if you buy that whole rap and you buy that whole stick, right? I don't. I'm going to come out and say it. I don't. I don't buy the fact that Ron DeSantis is a genuine populist. I don't think his opposition to the mandates and his opposition to lockdowns was rooted in anything sincere. I think, I can't say this on YouTube, but you know what I think just by alluding to it. Ron DeSantis, first of all, let's just put it this way. The ruling class has waged a surgical operation to undermine Donald Trump's presidency throughout the entire thing. And it culminated to pretty extreme lengths. And DeSantis was 100% involved and a part of those. 100%. Ron DeSantis was 100% involved. Now, you may ask the question, why were they trying to undermine Trump? Trump did everything for the establishment. He kissed Israel's ass. He killed Soleimani for the neoconservatives. He did the tax stuff, I guess, for the rich, which, I mean, I know that's more complicated because there was tax loopholes and things like that, and the rich didn't even want the tax break, well, if you can believe it. But Trump did not seem to, in any substantive way, challenge the establishment. Only in a symbolic sense did he do this. What if I told you that's what they found dangerous about him? Yeah, they kept him in line, however they did, but his mere symbolic presence was a threat to them. The fact that so many people, so many Americans were loyal to Trump and not to them, even though Trump was following in lockstep with their agenda throughout the duration of his presidency, he had the freedom to deviate if he wanted to, because he was building a symbolic presence that people trusted more than the institutions of the ruling class. I'm not saying Trump actually took steps against the ruling class. I'm saying he had the ability to do that, and that was enough to make him a threat. And that is why the ruling class has crafted a very elaborate, potentially decade-long plan to completely extinguish the Maga movement and annihilate it. And DeSantis is probably the most important piece of the puzzle. So I want to suggest something pretty insane. What if we step up and we step up to the fucking fore, and we stop this fucking thing in its tracks. What if we somehow traverse the political polarization? Yeah, we hate the Democrats. Yeah, we hate the leftists. Yeah, we hate the shit libs and their cultural agenda. Yeah, we're against the LGBT agenda. Sure, okay, we don't care. That's not enough. We see you for what you are, DeSantis. We see right past you. We're not going to fucking take your side because of the current alignment of polarizations makes it so we have to virtue signal in your favor. No. We're going to traverse the political polarization. We have nothing to prove to anyone. We're not leftists. We're not fucking Democrats. We're not fucking liberals. And for all of you so-called legacy conservatives is what I love to call you legacy conservatives who had the fucking audacity to try and say that we MAGA communists, myself, Jackson Hinkle, you said that we were secret infiltrators trying to turn conservatives toward the leftists because we were talking bad about DeSantis. You said that. You said we were trying to divide the conservative movement. I would love for you to wake the fuck up and tell that to us now, when it's very clear that DeSantis and Trump are opposed to one another. When it's very clear that all of the swamp Republicans and establishment Republicans are rallying behind Ron DeSantis. Even the centrist liberals are doing it. Meanwhile, the media is promoting DeSantis and lionizing him. And you had the fucking audacity to say we were infiltrators for calling that shit? You're the infiltrator. You are a legacy conservative who is not loyal to MAGA. All of you conservatives who are not MAGA, you're not real conservatives. How can you be conservative in this country and not be loyal to the MAGA movement? Tell me what other force, what other political force exists but the MAGA movement? You don't have to agree with everything Trump says. I don't. You don't have to agree with all of the politics that prevails among MAGA. I certainly don't. But that is the headquarters of the American people in their fight against the ruling class. The headquarters of the American working class is MAGA right now. Tell me how you can be a conservative who's disloyal to MAGA. You're going to tell me that Ron DeSantis is the biggest fucking con of all time. You're going to tell me that after 4 years of witnessing what the media did to Trump, you're just now going to come along and say, oh, well, I agree with DeSantis' policies and what he's saying, so I'm going with DeSantis. What has DeSantis done to earn your trust? His policy on lockdowns? Why don't you look at his history and his track record? Why don't you ask the question, why is all of the ruling class money going to Ron DeSantis right now? Why don't you ask those questions? You don't care? Does it mean nothing to you that the MAGA movement was real and that this is fake? Does that mean nothing to you? I've seen a lot of these Republican whatever, right? These respectable Republicans is what we want to call them. I've seen them. I've interacted with them day and day. These are not people who are loyal to the MAGA movement. These are Democrats who are even worse than the Democrats, if you can believe it. They are opposed to Joe Biden because they don't think Joe Biden is tough enough on Putin. You know, the legacy Republicans, they're no good. The legacy Republican Party is no good. The Republicans and the conservatives who are disloyal to MAGA, they're no good. And it's just about time we wake up to this fact. MAGA is not going to win with this dead weight. MAGA has dead weight, and it's the disloyal Republicans. It's the disloyal conservatives. It's the ones who only voted for Trump because they opposed the Democrats. Now, how does MAGA win if they don't have the legacy conservatives and legacy Republicans? Simple. I'm about to propose to you something that's going to fucking sound insane, right? What I think is that MAGA, which represents the American working class, and which is predominantly actually the white working class, should unify with the black and even though Latinos are joining Republicans in large numbers, we need to see a new alliance between the forces of black nationalism and MAGA. We need to see a new alliance where MAGA strengthens its working class component and strengthens its working class nature. Don't worry about these respectable conservatives and respectable Republicans that you're scared of alienating. Fuck them. They're Democrats in name only. Sorry, they're Democrats in every respect but their name. Meanwhile, if you double down on MAGA, if you double down on the working class aspect, millions await you. Millions. We can forge a movement of millions. We can forge a movement of the white working class, of the black working class, of the Latino working class, and whoever the fuck else is a member of the working class. A united working class movement. That's what I believe in. You want to ask me what communism means? That's what it means. The working class must be united. And if the working class is going to be united, it's time we accelerate the class war within the Republican Party. Because a lot of these fucking Republicans are disloyal. They're not real Republicans with a capital R. They're not Lincoln Republicans. They're not defenders of the Republic in 1776. They're shills for imperialism. They're shills for the deep state. They're shills for the ruling class. They're shills for the enemy and the globalists. If we want a movement for the working class, MAGA must double down on all of the things that the respectable Republicans are saying is going to make us lose to the Democrats. No, if MAGA accelerates itself, accelerates its MAGA qualities, it will create a mass movement of tens of millions. Thank you so much, Boydberg. Appreciate you.
Patriotic revolutionary intercommunalism. Exceedingly based. All Americans of every shade have everything to gain from this.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mason.
Workers of all races, we will defeat the rootless parasites.
Thank you so much, Mason. We need to get down to business. MAGA is a working class movement. So why is MAGA not embracing itself as such? Why are the leaders of MAGA still trying to work with and pander to these fucking rhinos and these respectable Republicans and these fucking sellout fucking Republicans that have nothing, that hate everything about MAGA? You think those Republicans liked the MAGA movement? Oh, I'll tell you what MAGA was. MAGA was when workers in Michigan and in Ohio and in Indiana and across the whole fucking country rallied together and joined the Republican Party for the first time in a long time, probably since the time of Lincoln, if you want. And then all of these legacy Republicans were sitting back and they said, oh, I guess we have to deal with these rabble, and we're better than them. These people are too rowdy. These people are too... They lack respectability. Oh, Trump is friendly with Putin? These same fucking people, their weak links, went on to form the Lincoln Project and allied with the fucking Democrats. Why don't we accelerate what MAGA is instead of pulling back? Because the media and the legacy Republicans continually tell us that we have to tone down the MAGA stuff. It's not popular among voters. The MAGA stuff is too extreme. Americans want to be moderate. I say no. I say they're the extremists. I say we take MAGA to its fullest conclusion. And if we do that, all of those working class people who gave up on the system, They will join us. They will join Maga. Maga will join something bigger than itself. I'm not here to lie to you and bullshit you. I could sit here on this chair and talk shit about the left and the Democrats all fucking day. And I've spent the majority of my fucking career doing that. But I'm telling you at this decisive hour, and I'm being completely honest with you, at this decisive hour, that the time to stand up to the DeSantis deception is now. The time to call out the fake Republicans and conservatives who stabbed Maga in the back is now. Maga can only become what it was always meant to be when it realizes that it's a working class movement. It's not a movement of the respectable Republicans. It's not a movement of the legacy Republicans and the legacy conservatives and the fucking people who own golf courses and shit. That's not what MAGA's for. MAGA is for the working class. It's not for these nice Republicans. The MAGA movement doesn't need nice people. It needs warriors. Thank you so much, JC. Appreciate you.
Communism is Maga's mecha suit. Round 2.
This guy gets it. This guy gets it. It's a mecha suit. If MAGA wants to be superpowered, let me tell you guys something. You won't believe me. You honest to God won't believe me. But I know what the ruling class believes. I've been there. I know how they think. I know the depth of their ideology and their view of the world. I know how sophisticated their understanding of the world is. MAGA cannot take these fucking people on unless it has a powerful vision and a powerful theory of its own. You don't know what you're up against. You may not care about the science of Marxism, Leninism, and the science of Marxism, but our ruling class knows about these things, and they use this science, and they use these theories to prop up and benefit themselves. Why do you think so much of the fucking ruling class are former Marxists and former communists? It's because these people used to be communists themselves, and then they chose the path of evil and sold out. These are the people Lenin was fighting. Trump called him Lenin. Lenin was fighting these people. Mao was fighting these people. It's called the struggle against revisionism. And the revisionists are in control. The Social Democrats. They're all educated as Marxists. They're all educated as Trotskyists. They're all educated understanding how the world works, and they use this understanding to fight the working class and wage a class struggle, except instead of waging the class struggle for the workers, they do it for the ruling class. The time for nonsense is long past. MAGA needs to get serious, and if MAGA needs to get serious, it needs a conspiracy of its own. It needs a weapon of its own. Communism is that weapon. Communism is the weapon MAGA will use to go toe-to-toe with this ruling class. Sure, you can give up. Call uncle. Give up. Vote DeSantis. Rally behind DeSantis. Let them take your children. Let them take your families. Let them take your livelihood. Let them crush you under debt and inflation and make you a slave living in a pod and eating bugs. And don't forget about the green agenda. And before you say, oh, DeSantis is against all those things. No, he's not. He's just as much against those things as George W. Bush. He's controlled opposition. Because while DeSantis is president, the infectious rot of globalist culture will infect our youth and our society and our institutions, and DeSantis won't do a damn thing about it. And all of the shadow civil society funded by the Ford Foundation and Rockefeller money, all of that shit, all of it is going to go toward the green agenda. And right after DeSantis, there's going to be a Meghan Markle awaiting us. A Meghan Markle who's going to take away our constitutional liberties, strip us of the American Republic. Thank you, Johnny.
We need to push the hashtag DeSantis deception.
Yes. Meghan Markle, who's going to strip us away of our constitutional liberties, abolish the Constitution, abolish the Republic as we know it, and reestablish the rule of the bloodsuckers and parasites who collect rent and interest. Many of you aren't aware how it worked in the Middle Ages. In the Middle Ages, you had a bunch of landowners, and they owned all the land, and you were serfs. And as a serf, you worked their land, and in return, you would get some benefits, and you would give them their due, and the people would live as slaves for these elites, these aristocrats. And there was no constitution to protect the rights of the people. There was no republic in which the will of the people could be vested. There was no commonwealth in which the proceeds of society were used in a way that benefited all of us rather than just the few. Our ruling class has become so monstrously wealthy. There's nothing wrong with wealth. But they have become so monstrously powerful with that wealth, to the point of rigging and controlling every aspect of our society, that they see our Constitution as an impediment to their agenda. They're going to get rid of our republic. They're going to get rid of our Constitution. And we're going to go back into the throes of the Dark Ages, the Middle Ages. And that's what they have in store for us. And that's what they're going to fucking sell us. They're going to sell us a future in which people like Jeffrey Epstein will be the norm rather than the scandalous exception. Even though that's already the case, it's all going to be out in the open. This is the world that they have in store for us. Right after DeSantis, it's going to be Meghan Markle. And she's going to get rid of the American Republic. Joe Biden is so often talking about how our democracy is in peril. The tagline of the Washington Post is, "Democracy dies in darkness." You ever question why? It's because these people it's like a show. This is all a stage. It's like a theater. It's a theatrical performance in which the conclusion will be the destruction of the republic and of democracy. They're already anticipating it. I could sit back and watch all of this happen. I could sit around like I have been. I mean, I've been moving, but I haven't been able to stream and spread the truth. It's been killing me. I could watch all of this happen. You could watch all of this happen, and it would happen. And I'm sure the whole thing would collapse eventually. But why waste our time? Isn't the worst thing in the world to waste time? Why waste time? Let's get right to it. Let's stop this fucking thing in its tracks. You don't think we can? We can. I'm telling you we can. If someone tells you we can't do it, tell them Haas from Infrared said we can. We can do it. We can stop this thing in its fucking tracks. And the first step is raising awareness about this DeSantis bullshit. We do this, we forge a royal road to an alternate timeline. We can make that alternate timeline. It's possible. It's possible. Everything Infrared is, everything this is, it's an alternate timeline. CPUSA 2036. It's an alternate timeline that I believe in. I believe in this. I believe in Maga. You want to know how many people believe in MAGA? No one. No one believes in MAGA. Everyone thinks MAGA is destined to lose. Oh, MAGA has to lose. Oh, those working class people can never amount to anything. Oh, who are we to stand against the power of billionaires and trillionaires and the power of the banks and the power of the NGOs and the power of the special interests and the power of the lobbyists? Who are we to stand against them? I'll tell you who we are. We are the backbone of this fucking country. And it took the truckers in Canada to teach that lesson to a lot of you. There is no America without the working class. All the working class has to do is awaken to its existence and awaken to the fact of what it is and what power it wields. And it can move mountains. It can do anything. And the power of these fucking elites will seem so insignificant in comparison. The power of these elites will appear so fucking insignificant compared to the power of the American working class united by a common will and a common destiny. We are in an awkward situation, ladies and gentlemen. I won't deny it. I won't deny how awkward the situation is. But circumstance has dictated the current situation. We're in a situation where MAGA is on the decline, and ironically, the only people who can bail it out are fucking communists. That's the situation we're in. If you can believe it, the only thing that can save MAGA, the only thing that can save this original working class movement is communism. It's the only fucking thing. And it's the truth. It's an awkward situation. It's an ironic situation, but it's true. It's the truth. Who else but we who believe in the political power of the American working class can breathe new life into the MAGA movement? Many of you are black-pilled. I know what it's like to be black-pilled. Sometimes I am tempted, if you can believe it, to be black-pilled. We live in a world where we feel like we're powerless. We watch the TV and forget it, man, it's Chinatown, right? Whoever the elites decide to support, whoever the media supports, whoever the ruling class supports. I mean, even Trump was backed by Sheldon Adelson, the powerful Israel lobby. Whoever the powers that be decide to support will win. And we are just here for the ride, and there's nothing we can do about it. There's nothing we can do. There's nothing we can do. We just have to sit back and watch things unfold, and we'll never be able to intervene in any kind of way. There's no justice in the world. Just a black pill. Is that how we're going to proceed? Is that how we're going to proceed? I don't know. I just kind of think it's a little bit convenient to proceed that way. I think that's what a pussy wants to do, who wants to put their fucking head down and lay back in bed and give up the fucking fight. I think it's the coward's way out. I think you're fucking lazy if that's what you want to do, because it's easy. Let me tell you something. We're not all religious here. I'm not particularly religious in the practicing sense. But there's these stories that we find in these books, at least the ones I'm familiar with, in the Abrahamic lineage. All of these prophets, all of these people who should have been powerless, right? They were nobodies. They started as nothing. And they defied the whole fucking world and the powers that be. On the basis of truth. On the basis of justice. On the basis of righteousness. Are these just stories? Has that ever happened in history? Can that happen? Can a people equipped with the truth defy the power of lies? Luckily, we don't have to speculate. Because there was a man named Karl Marx. And Karl Marx discovered a science, a weapon, that the working class can use and apply to reality to win. It's fucking science. Yeah, it's real science, not the fake Reddit shit they teach us. Real shit with results, and it's possible. For the first time in history, the oppressed peoples don't just have to rely on stories and on apocryphal tales. They don't even have to rely on faith in a religious institution. They just have to rely on the immortal science of Marxism-Leninism. And they can win. They can win. And what does this science teach us? The science teaches us that all history is a history of class struggle. And what will clarify the current political deadlock we find ourselves in is that it is underlied by a class war. And that in order to wage this class war, the working class, the producing class, the class of people working with their fucking hands, building every fucking brick by brick, that goes up in this country, that paves the roads, that does everything to make this country run and work. All that class has to do is be aware of itself. And once it's aware of itself, it can do anything. All it has to do is become aware of its power and its leverage. Thank you, MJ.
I have been saying the working class must continue to commit jihad against the ruling class. Remember, jihad means struggle.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, MJ. Thank you so much. That's all it has to do. It must wage a class struggle. It must be aware of itself as a class. And once it's aware of itself as a class, it will be aware of the people outside of its class. It will be aware of the fact that there is a conflicting interest between the people outside of its class and itself. A conflicting interest that is based in the most visceral aspect of our humanity, which is how we feed ourselves and how we clothe ourselves. All the things we take for granted. The working class is scattered and divided. It's not aware of itself and it thinks it's weak. The Maga people don't even fucking know what made them powerful. They're being told by these fucking swamp Republicans in the media, oh, your message is too extreme. Rally behind DeSantis. Trump is done. Trump is no good. Trump is bad. You'll never win. And then some instinct stirs within the hearts of the people of demoralization. And that suddenly they have to compromise with people who do not share their class interest. I'm going to be straight to you. I'm going to tell it to you straight. And I'm going to put it straight. Financial speculators do not share the same class interest as a fucking coal miner. A trucker doesn't share the same fucking class interest as a fucking manager at a fucking Wendy's. They don't. They don't. A manager at a car dealership doesn't share the same interests as a dock worker. They don't share the same interests. They don't want the same things. The power of one comes at the expense of the power of the other. They don't share the same interests. They don't. It's time Maga realizes that it has dead weight. And that once it cuts off this dead weight, which is the legacy establishment Republicans, it can move mountains and it can do things it had never even conceived of as possible. It can do things it never thought it was able to before. It can do things it never believed in itself to have the ability to do, such as win. And when I say win, ladies and gentlemen, when I say win, I mean win power. I mean win power. That, my friends, is what a united working class can do with ease. With ease. Now, I know there's other people like Hassan Picker who tries to talk about the same thing. Oh, the working class. And they're talking about fucking baristas at Starbucks. I'm not talking about baristas at Starbucks. I'm not fucking Hassan. I actually mean what I say. I'm not Hassan. This isn't like a cute meme to me. I mean what I fucking say, actually. I mean what I say when I say the working class must unite together and smash the class enemy. I mean it. The working class must unite together and smash the globalists and the ruling class and break the spine of their dictatorship. It must break the spine of Rockefeller money and the Ford Foundation and all these fucking LGBT, whatever the fuck. I mean what I say. I mean what I say. That's why I'm banned and he's not. You're looking at a real communist right now. Not a fake one like Hassan, but a fucking real one. Because I actually mean it. Doesn't that make me insane? I actually mean it. When I say class struggle, I actually mean truckers and workers. I mean people coming together to actually fuck shit up. I actually mean it. I don't mean glasses wearers in Starbucks getting a Twitter treatment where they have fucking, a great time working at Starbucks. I don't mean fucking bullshit Democrat unions. No. I mean the actual American working class fighting against the ruling class. The real ruling class, not a theoretical ruling class, not people who happen to make money, not people who have businesses, small businesses, and just make a living. I mean the actual ruling class. The actual ruling class. The actual people who have rigged every aspect of our society to keep them on top and to keep you on the bottom. That one. That's the working class I'm talking about. That's why when I talk about communism and when I talk about a working class movement, I'm talking about something that will involve Maga, which by far is the largest working class movement in this country right now. and as of now. And that is simple fact. No one can deny that realistically, with a straight face, without admitting they're a fucking liar. Because it's the truth. Maga is the premier tribune of the people. I am not Hassan. I am not Hassan. This is real. Thank you so much, Defund. Appreciate you. Your ears hurt? They should fucking hurt. Because you've been awake. You've been fucking sleeping. You've been sleeping all this time. Even I've been sleeping. So let's wake the fuck up. Let's wake the fuck up. Why don't we? Let's wake the fuck up. You think I'm too loud? Think I'm too loud? What have you been doing for MAGA communism? Have you been raising hell at your local city council? Have you been organizing, real organizing? Have you been going to Republican Party meetings and raising issues relevant to the working class? Have you been striving to become a leader in your community? Someone well respected? Someone people go to and look to for advice? Have you been doing these things? Then don't complain about my volume. Until you do these things, you can complain about my volume. You can say, Haz, I've worked so hard. You don't have to yell in my ear anymore. Look, there are no stars that guarantee. There's no stars aligned in the sky that will guarantee our victory. None. And it would be something for me to say that all we have to do is believe in it. But really, it's more than belief. It's recognition. Isn't this fate? I think it's fate. I will not let go of this thread of fate that is CPUSA 2036. I won't let go of it. I will not let go of this thread of fate that says that MAGA communism is destined to be a movement of millions, and that one day the Communist Party will be a party of millions. I won't let go. Why should I? Why should I let go of that timeline that is coming our way, that is inevitable? I do believe in hyperstitions. I do believe that if you hype something up enough, it becomes fact. I believe it. I believe that if you give something enough of your fucking energy, it will become real. How do you see it, huh? Can you imagine a 2036 that doesn't include a reinvigorated and revived Communist Party? Run it through me. Run it to me. Why can't we do this? What about this is impossible? Why the fuck can't we do it? This should be easy. This should be easy. It's been done before. Are we going to pretend like the Soviet Union didn't exist and that the Russians didn't have their own revolution? Are we going to pretend that didn't happen? It did happen. So let's learn. Let's learn and distill the truth. Because the left has failed to do that for 100 years. And it's time we sit down and seriously reevaluate what it means to build a party of the American working class and what it means to build a communist party. In the process of doing this, together we have come to extremely heterodox conclusions. Conclusions that are incompatible with the existing Marxoids and leftoids. Did you see Joe Sims screaming Democrats are the revolutionary subject? I didn't see that. I did see him call himself a Democrat with a small d. I did see that. But regardless, what I am trying to tell you is actually more simple. The way we confront DeSantis is by focusing on the fact that he is a part of the ruling class's plan. Let's not let go of Maga. Let's not let go of the original promise of Maga, which is to revitalize the industrial economy of America, and therefore the industrial working class of America. Let's not forget where the power of the people lies and where the power of the establishment lies, because that's the only red line we need to draw. Together, the working class cannot be defeated, but divided and confused and obfuscated, someone like DeSantis can win. And then the American people will be led like sheep to the slaughter. The system is going to break. And when that happens, despair will take over. That won't bode well for anyone. That won't bode well for anyone. Now, I want to discuss another thing. I wanted to discuss something with you to the extent of my ability to on YouTube. And that is the whole Telegram affair and the Telegram controversy. So, a bunch of, I don't know what these fucking people are. They're, people who are obsessed with the JQ, the Jewish question, were raiding my Telegram. These weren't my followers. They weren't my supporters. They're just people who were raiding the fuck out of my Telegram because I said something that should be, I guess, for non-retards. I said, I guess something you have to be a smart person to understand. I said globalist doesn't mean Jew. And I talked about the origins of globalism. Globalism is postmodern. It's not modern. Now, the JQ of the European Enlightenment and the European thinkers who constantly posed, even Marx did, right? Of, there's just this question of, existential question of Europe in relation to the Jewish people. That belonged to the era of classical modernity, where Judaism seemed to have a privileged significance for the modern world, for the contemporary world at that time. But the postmodern world is different. The postmodern world does not privilege Judaism as having any kind of special significance as far as the pressing question of the day. There isn't a Jewish question today, really. There can't be. Now, people took this to somehow mean that I was denying the fact that, okay, there are a lot of powerful Jewish people. Of course there are, right? People thought I was denying that. Oh, Haz, you're denying all the stuff about Hollywood. No, I'm really not, actually. I'm just pointing out that globalism in particular isn't Jewish. Klaus Schwab isn't Jewish. The architects of globalist entities that are in existence are not Jewish. The philosophers and thinkers of globalism were not Jewish. So this obsession with Judaism in particular is primitive for the contemporary context, and this is a fact. Now, the question, all this stuff, disproportionate representation, that has nothing to do with the zeitgeist of the era. Now, let's say I conceded to these people, and I don't know what I can say for YouTube's sake, but let's just say, they said something extremely anti-Semitic, which is that, Hollywood has a lot of Jewish representation in executive positions and shit, right? Are you allowed to say? I don't know. Even if we concede that, but we wouldn't because we're not allowed to on YouTube. I don't know. Maybe we are, right? I don't know. But Hollywood is in decline. Hollywood is being outmoded. You think Hollywood represents the zeitgeist of the era? I go to a fucking movie theater. I was in Hollywood. I was with John Zerka in Hollywood. It's not really relevant that I was with Zerka, but it's just how I remember it. Because we were both recovering from COVID. After we had COVID, we were still in Hollywood. And we both saw The Matrix. And I went and watched The Matrix in Hollywood. And like, what's that Chinese theater they have in Hollywood? That's where we saw it. And it was almost depressing. And I felt like I was like missing out on the real world. Because I was like, dude, this is so like outdated. This movie is outdated. These commercials are outdated. This whole fucking place is outdated. Hollywood does not represent the zeitgeist of the era. You want to know what does? South Korean fucking zombie movies you see on Netflix. That's what probably represents the zeitgeist of the era. Or what's that, shows made by Spanish people. Spanish shows or something. Like that you see on Netflix. That is what represents the zeitgeist of the era, right? If you want to know what globalist culture is, it's not really, it's not like some kind of necessarily rootless cosmopolitanism. It's rooted cosmopolitanism, if that makes sense. It's like the World Cup with Shakira. Remember that fucking song? A waka waka, eh, waka. It's like that. You know what I mean? There's nothing specifically Jew or even Jewish at all about that. That is like a genuine globality, right? So that's all I was trying to say. I was like, this is like an extremely primitive and literally retarded point of view. And everyone pissed off a lot of people because they're mentally retarded, right? And I'm saying this as a kindness that they're mentally retarded, but that is what you are. If you are fucking obsessing over this shit, right? Come on, South Korea and Spain are culturally colonized. Okay, even if they are, that's the avant-garde of world culture right now. It's not America anymore. And if it's America, it's not Hollywood, okay? Please explain to me how Hollywood's the avant-garde of culture still. It's not, okay? Anyway. Okay. So, I'm talking about the future. If you have a future-oriented perspective, you would not be someone who's obsessed with JQ. Right? Now, I don't know how much I can talk about on YouTube, but Friedrich Engels wrote about anti-Semitism. And because I'm a fanatical Marxist, I went and re-looked at what Engels said about anti-Semitism to see if it could shed any light on this kind of hysteria in my Telegram. And Engels said something very interesting. And I'm going to say it once, and I'm going to leave it at that. But I wanted to share it with you what his perspective was. Engels said that anti-Semitism only prevails in retarded cultures. But he said that for a specific reason. And this maybe was Engels being an anti-Semite. But I'm just going to share with you what Engels said without endorsing it myself. But what Friedrich Engels said in that text on anti-Semitism was that in countries that were more medieval, Jewish capital prevailed because the landowners were rentiers. They just collected rent. And the only form of capital that existed was Jewish. And that was what dominated, right? So Engels makes an equivalence between pre-industrial capitalism and the prominence of Jewish capital, quote unquote. And that's why Engels said it happens in retarded countries. He wasn't saying they were like mentally deficient. He was saying they were economically retarded. They were backward. They did not yet develop any industrial capital. And the reason for that, according to Engels, is because in the Middle Ages, usury was permitted only for Jews, or at least was forced on Jews. Christians could not partake in that practice. So for Engels, anti-Semitism was reactionary, not because Engels was a moralist, not because he was a social justice warrior, not even from the perspective of anti-racism or the fact that what Stalin said, it's a form of cannibalistic barbarism. No, Engels was pragmatic. Engels said, the problem with anti-Semitism is that it corresponds to a retarded mental state. And by retarded mental state, he meant a state of mind stuck in the past. These people who hated Jews in, Austria and Poland, they could not think beyond their current conditions of feudalism. They were stuck within this framework of Jewish capital being the only form of capital. And what Engels was basically saying is, how are these people going to take on the real capitalism, right? How are they going to take on industrial capital? They can't, because their mind is stuck in the past. They're not fighting the struggle of the future. They're not waging the battle of the future. Their mind is retarded and locked in step. Give me a moment. Give me one moment. I told you it was going to be a moment, okay? Told you it was going to be a moment. But what Engels was saying was that the anti-Semites of his time, because they were in these backward countries, were not prepared for the future, okay? They weren't prepared for the revolutionary struggle waged in the future. They were stuck in the past because their conditions, their economic conditions, and their social conditions belong to a prior backward state. So that's what Engels was saying. He wasn't saying, he wasn't necessarily... Now, I don't agree with Engels because I'm a YouTuber, and what Engels was saying was anti-Semitic. He was saying that Jewish capital dominated in like Poland and Austria, where there was medieval relations, and there was large, nobility and aristocracy, and then the only form of capital that existed there was underdeveloped, and therefore monopolized by an ethnic minority. That's what Engels said, okay? So, yeah, that's what Engels was saying. And he said the anti-Semites are stuck. He literally, it's like a literal form of mental retardation. It's an inability to have a coherent vision of the future, of the struggle to come, of fate, of what's going to actually, what the level of sophistication in your strategic awareness of the alignment of different forces. The anti-Semites are retarding that ability.
Please.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Have you heard of a court factor, aka Court J?
Yeah, I've heard of that. Thank you so much, Jennifer. I'm not exactly sure what I kind of forgot. I think that's more political though, isn't that? But so what I'm trying to say here though is that the reason anti-Semitism is a waste of time, you don't have to be an SJW, you don't have to be, doing it from a moral perspective. Even from a pragmatic perspective, it is mentally retarded. That's the problem. Okay? And that's why Engels said at the time, and on this note, I will say nothing more.
Why is the JQ prep?
Shut the fuck up. Okay? I will say no more because we have reached the limits of what we could talk about on YouTube. But Engels pointed out that at the time of his writing, this was according to Engels. This is not me. This is just Frederick Engels. At the time of his writing, he said, among the millionaires and billionaires in America, or the millionaires of America, there's not a ton of Jews. Jewish capital isn't prevalent in America. And he was right, actually. He was right. At that time. Okay? At that time, he was right. What I'm trying to say, though, is that then why has the JQ re-emerged in some sense? I think it has a lot to do with the fact that if I was Engels, which I'm not, that mental retardation reasserts itself in a new historical era, which means from Frederick Engels' perspective, anti-Semitism is only something that could prevail in circumstances of stagnation when industrial capital, quote unquote, industrial capital, is not what prevails. And so from Engels' perspective, not mine, right? People would start to hyper-focus on the patterns of like, oh, okay, who's the most wealthy and all this kind of stuff. And nepotism probably would prevail more in circumstances where the economy is less based on the chaos of industry and more based on this kind of ordered, fixed, kind of monopolistic rentier economy. So basically that's and then like, you know, nepotism kicks in. And we're not talking about Jews here, okay? You could just look at families. You know how many dynasties, like familial dynasties, stretching like 2 generations, which is a lot, by the way, control, you know, or not necessarily control, but are in prominent positions of power and make up the ruling class, whether it's ethnic or otherwise. That is only something that can happen when the ruling class isn't constantly being shaken up in terms of like social mobility, because there is no new, development of capital occurring. It's almost like, from Engels' perspective, we have regressed into a state of feudalism. So then you would be like, okay, so wouldn't Engels think that the Jews are in control of everything and do control everything right now? I think Engels would probably say something that even if he acknowledged that a sizable proportion of the ruling class is Jewish, or at least a disproportionate portion. I'm talking about Engels, not me, by the way. But if he were to acknowledge that, he would probably say something like, that is only insofar as that is not only the ruling class, but the entire economy in decline. Meaning, from the perspective of the struggle to come, this is the past. This represents the past. That means Engels would say it's stupid to think, oh, the Jews are your enemy, your main primary enemy. Engels would say that's fucking stupid. Your main enemy is not going to be some vestige of the past from Engels' perspective. That's not going to be your main enemy. Your main enemy is going to be the struggle at the level of the struggle for the future. who actually poses a threat as far as the future is concerned. The current system can't continue. It cannot continue. It will not prevail. So from the perspective of the future, who is your enemy? Right? So that's all I'm going to say as far as that question is concerned. But I think people should explore Engels' perspective for historical purposes. Exactly. The structure is failing and regressing. So it's not representative of any struggle for the future. That one is already on its way down. Put it this way, right? An extreme anti-Semite. Thank you, Chris Morlock.
Anti-Semitism is the original intersectionality, the socialism of fools. Identity reifies class.
Yeah, I agree with that. You know, an extreme anti-Semite would probably say something like, it would probably, so Engels, if Engels was extremely anti-Semitic, which I don't think he was, I mean, he wasn't, he would probably compare Jewish capital, right? Or usurious capital, which is not necessarily Jewish ethnically, but for historical reasons was associated with that. Engels would associate that with vultures, right? Meaning that kind of capital can only prey on already dead bodies. But vultures cannot prey on the living. So that's, if Engels was anti-Semitic, that's what he would say. He would say it's even like that'd be a really tasteless comparison, because no one should be called a fucking vulture, right? But as an abstraction of that specific form of capital that corresponded to these medieval relations of production, though that capital could be called vulturous, just in the sense that it's just making a profit off of something already backwards or stagnant or dead, whatever. It's not the enemy when it comes to the future. Okay? So yeah. So there's also someone in my chat who I'm gonna address. So first of all, yeah, this is actually interesting. So you're saying, who is Randolph? Okay. Mark Randolph, if that's who you're talking about. Okay, that was the first CEO of Netflix. The current CEO of Netflix is a guy named Reed Hastings. I don't think he's Jewish. But even if he was, but I don't think he is, but even if he was, who cares? The content that you see on Netflix is not produced in the same fucking way as Hollywood studios, where it's more centralized and there's more producers. There's more say by the production and distribution companies and all that shit. There's much more decentralization. That's why you see so much international content on Netflix. That's why you see shit from Asia and South Korea and places no one would make the accusation that this is all being controlled by Jews, right? So, yeah. Now I'm going to tell you my personal moral view, right? Now I'm going to be a cringe moral guy. I think obsessive anti-Semitism is a sad state of mind. I think it's a sad state of mind. And I think this is the real pill I'm going to fucking drop on you. I'm not impressed with it. I'm not impressed with its explanatory capabilities and its aesthetic in terms of how it represents the world. I'm not impressed with it, and I'll tell you why. Because why do the anti-Semites, as if that's a monolith, but why does it seem like pagans hide among those people? Why does it seem like it's always a fucking backdoor for paganism? Because by extension, it becomes, okay, now we're against Christianity and Islam, and the Jews are bad, and the whole prophets of Judaism are bad, and Jews are bad. It always becomes a gateway to paganism, doesn't it? How can you be a fucking Christian and an obsessive anti-Semite of some kind, right? How could you? You can't. Same with being a Muslim. So, if you want to know the truth about who actually controls us and who's in power, I'll tell you, right? It's not Jews, it's fucking pagans. Pagans are in power, not Jews. And I'll tell you why. Because many of you seem to have a racialist understanding of Judaism. So you see a bunch of people seem to be like, okay, this person was born in a Jewish family, therefore this is Judaism. No, it's not. Because 99.99% of those people don't practice Judaism. They don't fucking listen to the Torah and listen to the commandments of Judaism. They're not like Orthodox Jews who actually fucking practice the religion. Please fucking argue with me and tell me they do. No, they fucking don't. Go talk to an Orthodox Jew and ask them if they think secular Jews are observing the religion. No, they're not. So, they're not. Meanwhile, it seems like the entire ruling class, whether there are ethnic Jews or non-Jews, pagan. They worship these deities and things that the Jewish prophets went to war against. If you know the story of Jehu, who I don't know where Jehu got his name from, the real movement guy, but there was a real Jehu in history. And if you know that story, there was a Phoenician, my race, right, woman, who married one of the kings of Israel or Judah or something. And she was like sacrificing people and making everyone worship Baal. So Jehu stormed the temple and threw that bitch out of a window. So anyone who hates the Jews has to explain why all of these Jewish prophets in history are fighting so hard against pagans, while the entirety of the ruling class are these pagans, Freemasons, they're all into this pagan occultism. Watch a fucking TV show. Watch a fucking movie. And you will see that the number one message is always, Abrahamic religion is patriarchal and wrong. The pagan Mother Gaia is really down with it and cool. You don't notice that shit? You don't notice how demonized Abrahamic religions are right now? There's a magazine on the internet. It's called Jezebel. It's a feminist magazine called Jezebel. It's literally named after that bitch, Jehu, a based Jew, threw out of a fucking window. Thank you, Chris Morlock.
Jews are in the entertainment industry because it was one of the only industries they were allowed to be in. Just like they were the only ones allowed to do finance in the Middle Ages, again at the behest of the ruling elites.
Thank you so much, Chris Morlock. And I don't know if I can even talk about that, but that's what I was trying to say. It's like, everything is nepotism. Everything is nepotism. So if you're already starting with some kind of capital, it's very easy to get in industries that are not yet captured by other people. So there's a feminist magazine called Jezebel on the internet, right? So do you guys think the Jews control that magazine? Okay, I don't know who's the CEO of that magazine, but let's just say I grant you, if you said, oh yeah, it was an ethnic Jew who founded Jezebel. It's literally named after someone who is historically the enemy of the Jewish people and the enemy of mankind as a whole. The fucking pagan bitch Jezebel. It's not called Jehu, it's called Jezebel. So you have to explain that fact, and I'll explain it for you. It's paganism that the ruling class believes in. And some people who were born to Jewish families have converted to paganism. It's very clear to me. But it's like Klaus Schwab isn't Jewish, Bill Gates isn't Jewish. So many of these like spooky fucking people, if not most of them, are not Jewish or not born in Jewish families. So, you know what I mean? It's paganism. That's paganism doesn't discriminate when it comes to ethnicity. These are all fucking pagans. And let me ask you a question, because people are basically trying to tell me something that contradicts my holy books that I believe in, and I was born believing in. Thank you so much, Puppet Masters. Appreciate you.
Only a small number of Jewish people are in the elite club.
True.
It is important to note the difference between some and all. Also, Hebrew and Jews and Khazarian are not all the same people. Wolf in sheep's clothes is to be watched for.
Thank you for the dono. Appreciate it. I don't know what all of that means. But I agree that only a small number of Jewish people, as a proportion of Jews, only a tiny minority of them are in the ruling class. So why would you attack all Jews? It makes no sense. Chris, you said, Haz, who killed Christ? You know what? I am going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about the prophetic tradition in Judaism and what Orthodox Jews say.
Orthodox Jews are badass in their opposition to occupation. Also that Norman Finkelstein debate versus Dershowitz was one of my favorites of all time. Norman was the man. Now he's a little less libway.
Yeah, I've heard that. Thank you so much, Patriot.
The capitalist ruling class is made up of almost exclusively of Angloid pagans. We're literally ruled by Satanists and the Antichrist.
Yeah, I completely agree. So, you said, oh, well, Jewish people killed Jesus Christ. Well, first of all, the Romans did. So, no, they didn't. It was the Romans. But the story is that Judas had sold him for... Jesus was also a Jew, though. So that's first of all. Okay, so it was the Romans. Thank you, Diogenes.
Blaming the chosen people is like blaming the patriarchy.
But here's the thing I wanted to point out. The Jewish tradition itself, if you ask learned Orthodox Jewish scholars, that tradition itself is rife with prophets of the Jewish religion who were sent down and killed by other Jewish people. It's very rife throughout the Jewish history, the religious biblical history. That doesn't mean Judaism is bad. That means there's a prophetic and revelatory tradition which, all people are human. Humans are not God. Humans are imperfect. Humans are capable of evil and wrongdoing, right? But anyway, what about Orthodox Christian scholars? Look, I would be an Orthodox Christian if I wasn't a Muslim. I mean, I feel like since everyone is LGBT now and you can be I'm bi-religious. I'm a Shia Muslim and an Orthodox Christian. I'm both. And you would say, you're just a heretic. So what? I like Orthodox Christianity. It very much resonates with me. Anyway, I just think it's really I'm just very suspicious of people who try to spread animosity toward the Jews when the real enemy are pagans, and meanwhile Orthodox Jews and religious Jews seem to be extremely based on every issue. And are like, it seems like there's like this alliance of traditional people who are fighting the satanic agenda across the board, fighting the Great Reset, fighting the satanic agenda. And then you have these pagans come here and tell me, you should hate the Jews. Should I? Why should I hate these people who are my brothers in arms against the same enemy? My enemy is paganism, and this is what I want to say. In the holy books that I draw from, because I'm a Muslim, okay, the struggle has always been between monotheism and paganism. It's always been the revelatory tradition, the Abrahamic tradition, and paganism. It's always been the struggle. What do you think Jesus was fighting against? He was fighting against pagan Roman pedos. And it's like all throughout the Bible, all throughout the gospel, all throughout the Quran. That's the central struggle. It's always the revelatory tradition versus pagans who don't believe in the unity of God and the unity of mankind and the unity of being. And the fact that this is one reality, one truth, one humanity. But then people come here and tell me that the existential battle is actually against Jewish people. But that's not what my holy book says. That's not what Christians' holy book says. And that's not what Jewish holy books say, which Muslims and Christians both believe in. It always says the battle is against paganism. First and foremost, it's always against paganism. It has always said that. Paganism has always been the number one enemy. Shaitan takes the form of paganism. Always. Those who believe in the divisibility of the divine. I'm not talking about people like Hindus who still believe in one deity and one reality and one divinity. It's just a different tradition. I can't talk about the Dharma traditions because they're so different, right? But I'm talking about something that should make sense to all Christians, right, who are practicing Christians. But people who deny the unity of being, people who deny the unity of God, people who deny the fact that, we don't have Astarte and Aphrodite and fucking Zeus and whatever, Venus, and Saturn. We don't have all these fucking scattered vibes around in this world devoid of meaning, right? This world divided. There's one meaning that unites all humanity and all being. Not this insanity of, I'm just gonna like get in the good graces of this God and just, what? How does that satisfy the universality of meaning? It doesn't. It gives rise to wickedness. It gives rise to bestiality and incest and pedophilia and other things I'm not allowed to denounce on YouTube. All things that are really back in style today. So you're going to tell me that that's because of Judaism? And I think it's because of paganism, actually. I think it's the same paganism that the Jews were fighting against, that Jesus fought against, and that the prophet of my religion fought against. I think it's the same kind of paganism, actually. I think that's what's going on. I think what's going on is all the corruption and debauchery of the Romans, of the Babylonians, of the Egyptians. It's all come back. And that's what we're dealing with. And it's just happens to be a happy coincidence, right? It's always a coincidence, just a happy coincidence. But, I have to point out, it just so happens to be that, the ruling class believes in all of these ancient deities. They worship Moloch, and they worship Baal, and they worship, the Roman pantheon. And they engage in rituals. I mean, by the way, none of this is like secret. By the way, I mean, you think the ruling class are devout believers in the revelatory tradition? No, they're fucking not. They're either atheists if they're like lower level, and if they're top level, they believe in some really scary shit. And I mean really scary shit. I always like Rene Guénon's example of the world egg. And the world egg is his idea of the world egg is that in modernity, there's this light coming from the heavens at the top of the world egg that gets sealed shut. And that at the bottom, all of these strange forces seep into the world egg from below. Demons. And humanity gets hijacked into every which way and throttled in every which direction. Every form of debauchery and corruption and evil begins to prevail once the ceiling is shut that connects us to the divine. Thank you so much, Venezuelan
Is
Patriot.
polytheism inherently pagan? If so, what about Hinduism?
I don't think Hinduism is pagan, though I do need to study it. But I would not demean it in that way. I think because Hindus ultimately believe in one God. They just understand different aspects. Well, Muslims believe in 99 names of God. So those are different aspects of the same God. Anyway, what I wanted to continue talking about is that it seems like every time the ceiling to the divinity, to the divine, every time they get shut closed and sealed off, it's like the same patterns of the same kind of gods prevail over humanity. You notice there's a perennial similarity between the Semitic deities and the European deities, like the Roman and Greek deities. And it's like the patterns come back every time we shun God, we turn away from God. Every time we do that, the same demons come to prevail over the hearts and minds of men and women. It's pretty fucking scary. Zoroastrianism is pagan. I don't think any real tradition is pagan. Zoroastrianism is not pagan, and I don't think Hinduism is, and I don't think Buddhism is. Paganism is a state of ignorance. The only people who are initiated into paganism are elites. It's never like an openly avowed popular religion. It's always a secret and select elite, whether be they philosophers or be they something else, who are initiated into paganism. But paganism is ignorance, whereas Hinduism and Buddhism are scholarly traditions. That, my friends, is the difference. And it's an important difference. It's a difference you should keep in mind. It's an important difference you should always keep in mind. In any case, I conclude my segment on the Telegram stuff. I think that's all I want to say. But I don't, it's one thing to censor people over this topic, and I don't believe in censorship. But I don't believe in this kind of censorship. And it's another thing to start attacking me because I don't buy into your fucking schizo retard worldview. In any case, this stream is about Maga communism. And to return back to Maga communism, our good friend, and I want to give you some perspective on this, actually. I would like to give you some perspective here. Because...
Based.
Thank you so much.
I was raised an atheist. I don't know anything about religion. Can you explain the problem with paganism?
Thank you so much, Yeast. I appreciate you. The problem with paganism concerns the question of meaning. If there is no singularity of meaning, if there is no singularity of reality, right? And everything is scattered. There's no way for us to relate to humanity, to our origins, to our reality, to meaning as such. The problem with paganism is it's a form of the division of labor of the human heart. It divides the human heart. That's why racialism is a form of paganism. Instead of believing one form of universal humanity, you start to believe in a hierarchy of peoples. Oh, these are subhumans. This is master race. This is yada. That's what paganism is. Or classes, right? In feudalism, you have the nobility and you have the serfs and everyone knows their place. It's paganism. But there's much more to it. And I can't really get into it much, but it's a scary thing, is what it is. It's a scary thing. But I would call it the division of the human heart. The foreclosure of the singular divine, the singular truth, the singular reality. Our democratic societies are pagan. We believe there is multiple. We don't believe in one truth, one singular truth. To insist on that is totalitarianism, supposedly. We don't strive for one truth and one reality. We don't strive for one morality, for example. We're content with what? With bullshit. Also, keep in mind, guys, we are going to be doing the Patreon Q&A tonight. Just not right now. We are going to be doing it tonight. And this will be my uniform for the foreseeable future. I am wearing this shirt tomorrow as well. But we have like a long, the stream's nowhere close to being done, so don't worry about that. You do not have to worry about that. We're not wrapping up at all. Just letting you know. The establishment seems very attached to their singular truth. They don't, but their singular truth is that we cannot know any singular truth. When it comes down to it. They're pluralistic, aren't they? All right, anyway, on the question of Maga communism. I defended Richard Wolff. I remember it like it was yesterday. Yesterday, when I was young, I dreamed. Anyway, when I was on Twitch, there was a guy named Destiny who debated Professor Richard Wolff and afforded him a great deal of disrespect. And I was actually friendly with Destiny at this time. And despite that fact, I went on Destiny's stream, or I debated Destiny, and I told him, I defended Richard Wolff, and I told Destiny why he's wrong. And it contributed to a worsening of DGG-IGG relations at the time. Those relations are totally broke off now. There's no diplomatic relations. We're the North Korea of the internet, pretty much. But that was the truth at the time. I did it because I respected Richard Wolff so much. So you have to count me a little bit disappointed in Richard Wolff's... well, I'll just show it to you. But you'd have to count me as somewhat disappointed at Richard Wolff's rundown of Maga communism as a viewer asked him and donated him this question. So let's get right into it. Yesterday, when I was young. Oh, that will not do. Oh, that won't do. That won't do, will it? That certainly won't do. We can make this a little bit. There we go. Okay. So let's watch it together.
This is Richard Wolff from Democracy at Work, responding to another Ask Prof. Wolff question from our Patreon community. And this question comes from Carl. And Carl refers us to a recent appearance on a right-wing show, a talk show on television or a podcast, in which a supporter of Donald Trump's MAGA movement, Make America Great Again, refers to something called MAGA communism, and even identifies himself in the conversation as, matter-of-factly, oh yes, I am a communist. And what Carl wants to know is there some redefinition, some change going on in communism that might make it somehow a partner of right-wing, fascistic, or other right side of the aisle movements. So let me respond, and I'm going to do it historically so you can see the point I'm trying to make in that way.
All right. So just to let you know what a fucking slimy bitch and snake this piece of garbage person who asked this question was. And leftists are beneath humanity. We don't really think leftists. We don't have all that much expectations for them anyway. They're scum. If I found this person and I fucking pinned them and I cornered them to justify the phrasing of their question, they would snicker and laugh. Turns out I was being a fucking liar. These are the Antifa rats and mice we deal with. They have no morals. They have no character. They have no integrity. They have no honesty. And why should they? They believe in nothing. They have no honor. They have nothing to defend. They don't believe in God. They believe in nothing. They're complete nihilists. So this is what this nihilist... Sorry, I forgot I was on YouTube. There's some words I can't say. But this is what this person, this piece of shit, scum, devoid of manhood, devoid of honor, said. I listen to podcasts such as yourself to get a broader perspective. I love the clarity you bring to any subject you discuss. I would like your take on something I've heard recently, that communism is actually conservative fascism. Is someone rewriting the meaning of communism, or did I miss something? Communism is actually conservative fascism. Notice not once does this person entertain the possibility that they have gotten wrong both the meaning of communism and the meaning of conservative fascism. They are so dead set on the view that everything about Maga is fascist and conservative fascism, that they are willing to say this is a fixed constant. This is a fixed constant. There's no variability here. It's a fixed constant. It's a constant. Everything Maga is conservative fascism. So we're saying communism is actually conservative fascism. Oh, are you wrong about what conservative fascism is, retard? You stupid bitch who I spit in your face, you fucking retard bitch. Cocksucker. You dumb cocksucking bitch. Isn't this a bit of a fucking loaded question? So someone like Richard Wolff, who doesn't know the first fucking thing about MAGA communism probably, is like, oh yeah, communism isn't conservative fascism. Well, and by what metric and by what justification do you accuse what we are pushing to be conservative fascism? Because I know Richard Wolff's perspective on things like the truckers in Canada. Now, Richard Wolff heard your question and himself probably assumed that we are trying to make communism compatible with racialism or hatred or anti-Semitism or some kind of rehabilitation of the Nazis historically. Something along those lines. And then Richard Wolff, he gives a long response about how, Hitler tried to do the same thing with National Socialism. But this person knew that about Richard Wolff. He knew Richard Wolff is a boomer. He knew Richard Wolff isn't really familiar with all of this culture and all of this stuff. So Richard Wolff, this slimy snake scum of the earth, asks Richard Wolff this loaded question only in order to get Richard Wolff to manipulate him into denouncing MAGA communism. By already defining MAGA communism as conservative fascism without making any reasoning or justification, you are just setting up a scenario in which Richard Wolff is going to denounce it, and you don't even have to put any effort into making him do so, because you're not actually introducing him to what it is. You're introducing him to the idea that it's conservative fascism, which you have not justified in any way, which you've therefore allowed him to take for granted. Thank you,
Wolff
Chris
is an Alpha Syrian. He studied with him in Paris in the late 70s. He's a virulent anti-Stalinist. He just hides it well.
Yeah, thank you so much, Chris Morlock. I didn't know that. Did not know that. In any case, so Richard Wolff is a boomer who is manipulated into announcing MAGA communism because he wasn't given an opportunity to be exposed to what it actually is. Now, why am I saying that, right? I'm saying that because of the stance Richard Wolff took on the Canadian truckers. Richard Wolff stood with the Canadian truckers. And every substantive issue that I've seen, Richard Wolff has sided with the working class, over the ruling class every time. He sided with the working class over the wokes and over the leftists every time there was a controversy and every time there was an issue. Every single time. So if Richard Wolff was just informed of the fact that, hey, what the MAGA communists believe is that communists need to go down and understand that the base of communism is going to be Trump supporters. It is going to be people like the truckers. It's going to be people in the MAGA movement, and that needs to be the ground zero, the square one of where communists should begin. in terms of trying to build a working class movement, I actually think Richard Wolff would be like, yeah, that's literally exactly what I believe, because I always talk about that all the time. So what's the issue, right? So I think Richard Wolff would probably be on board if he knew it was that. But if you're going to tell him, oh, it's conservative fascism, you fucking piece of shit, cocksucker. Yeah, of course he's going to denounce it. Congratulations, you fucking retard. Fucking piece of shit, slimy scum. Scum of the fucking earth.
Throughout history, every time that socialism or communism have come back into the political arena.
So right off the bat, I don't know what country Richard Wolff has in mind. Socialism and communism have very much not come back in the political arena in the United States. AOC is a pariah candidate who is despised by the majority of Americans. And the only extent to which socialism and communism has come back into America is the extent to which it's a political boogeyman used by the right wing. But it's not a positive movement that exists in and of itself. So I don't know what you're referring to. It has not come back. Some trendy hipsters in Brooklyn or whatever, I mean, like, that's not indicative of any change in the political situation or political phenomena. So no, it's definitely not come back, Richard Wolff. I don't know what you're referring to. Maybe Bernie Sanders' dead movement, where he now just sheepdogs people into voting Democrat. I don't know I don't know what makes you think it's come back into the. I mean, can someone explain to me how, Richard? How has it come back? Because people want higher taxes. Sorry, because Democrats are pushing for higher taxes. And what else? I don't know. Just higher taxes. You guys ever notice it's just higher taxes? When is it anything more than higher taxes? Higher taxes and more public spending. Richard, are higher taxes and more public spending, what does that have to do with socialism? I agree that that's definitely the economic policy of the Democrats and leftists. Eat the rich. Let's just tax rich people and spend it on stuff. I get it, but is that socialism? And you're Richard Wolff? You studied alongside Althusser, I'm told. You seem to be an educated man. So in good faith and in earnest, I don't mean any disrespect. I've defended you against disrespect before, but in good faith, I'm asking you the question: do you actually believe socialism and communism is higher taxes and more public spending? I don't think you think that's what it is, because it seems like from what you've said in the past, you think it's worker co-ops, which, although I disagree with, I will say that's closer to what it is than just, higher taxes and more public spending. What does that have to do with socialism? If you ask right-wingers what socialism is, they're like, it's when you take money from the rich and distribute it among the poor. But, I mean, when have socialists defined it that way? Ever. Never, right? So, yeah.
Based.
It was on Richard Wolff to do some research on Maga communism before making this response, though, don't you think?
Thank you so much, Jennifer. I would say that the alert box is like behind everything. That's why. Okay, I got it. I would say that if he wasn't a boomer, but you have to remember he is a boomer. So he doesn't know whose toes he's stepping on necessarily by saying this. It's like he's just like responding to a hypothetical scenario in which, someone is saying communism is actually conservative fascism. And Richard Wolff is like, no, it's not. And that's the extent of his response. Like, he's not responding to actual MAGA communism. He's responding to this disgusting piece of shit fucking Patreon question by this scum of the earth piece of shit.
I should mention to you all that they have been pronounced dead and gone and over with over and over again. I'm often reminded of the famous letter Mark Twain sent to the Hartford Courant newspaper in Connecticut.
I think Richard Wolff is getting a little too excited over the fact, like, oh yeah, I've been like this communist guy for so long, and like it was unpopular in the 90s, and oh my god, it's trendy again among like young liberals. So that must mean it's back. No, Richard, it's still not back. Sorry to break it to you, dude. Don't want to break your optimism. It's not. I would know, because I belong to the generation that is supposedly bringing it back. They're not bringing it back. It's something totally different.
Where he lived, after reading his own obituary in that day's paper, he wrote to the editor, "Reports of my death have been greatly exaggerated." The reports of the death of socialism and communism have been exaggerated by people who wished they had disappeared, wished they were gone from the historical agenda, but it has never been the case, and it isn't that now either. So what's going on? Answer is, if you're a political movement and you want to get supporters at a time when socialism is attracting more and more interest, well, you might be tempted to grab hold at least of the name. And I'm going to give you some examples of how that has happened. Probably the most important example is the one of Adolf Hitler in.
So, in the spirit of good faith, just assuming that Richard Wolff is responding actually to me and Jackson, which I don't think, but just to like give the devil's advocate, I mean, he could not be more wrong. So hold on, let me get this straight. This is how Richard Wolff is potentially trying to explain Maga communism. According to Richard Wolff, me and Jackson saw how trendy communism was among socially parasitic hipsters who make up 0.05% of the population. So we hijacked the name to appeal to those people who had also spent a year canceling us and demonizing us. But we think that by calling it MAGA communism, all of the leftists who spent a year attacking us are going to like us again. Richard, have you ever thought about the possibility that MAGA communism is for MAGA, not for self-proclaimed communists? The self-proclaimed communists hate us and have hated us forever. Now, if you're saying we're just hijacking their term because communism is popular, it's certainly not popular among MAGA people who we're reaching out to, and it's certainly not popular among ordinary people who the term scares. So what you're saying is just wrong. How could we be hijacking? Thank you so much, Tristan. Appreciate you, man.
New setup looks great, Os. Congrats on the new place.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you, man. Appreciate that so much. Thank you so much, man. But how could that possibly be correct? You know? He's trying to say that we are hijacking the term communism because communism is popular and we want to appeal to the trend. But it's not popular among the people who are the only people we could become popular from. Do you understand what I'm saying, Richard? Like, the people we're reaching out to and appealing to hate the word communism. So how could we possibly be pandering to them by using that word? We're not pandering to the people who are more amicable to the word communism. Those people hate us. Leftist liberals are open-minded to communism. I'll give you that. But we hate those people, and they hate me. I have said things about those people that make them a bitch for not retaliating. I have said, I wish such bad things on those people openly. I can't even talk about it on YouTube. The hatred I have for those people and vice versa is so intense that if I met one in person, I would hope they never ever reveal who they are to me. That's the level of animosity that now exists, Richard Wolff. It's not like in Germany where you had the Social Democratic Party, which was this huge mass movement, and we're like trying to pander to them like the Nazis tried to, calling themselves National Socialists, and this long-standing legacy of a working-class socialist culture. We have nothing like that in America, Richard Wolff. That's what we're trying to build. What the fuck are we hijacking? Richard Wolff, tell me just what the fuck me and Jackson are hijacking. What workers' movement? What mass movement? What popular movement? The German Social Democrats were so fucking big, nobody could have any political future in Germany without making deals with them. What fucking equivalent to that exists in the United States right now or in the past 30 fucking years, hell, even past 50 or 60 years, that would allow you to come to the conclusion that we are hijacking the phrase communism opportunistically? It's a fucking stupid thing to say, and frankly, with all due respect, you should be ashamed for even insinuating it.
Germany. Hitler tried to build a movement in the 1920s in Germany. But the problem for Hitler was during the 1920s, what happened to Germany was a major reaction to having lost World War I, which traumatized the German people. Likewise, traumatizing them was the worst inflation any modern capitalist economy has ever seen up until that point. 1923, the value of the German Deutschmark collapsed basically to next to nothing. And the 50 years of scrupulously accumulated savings by the German working class, a very frugal, savings-oriented working class, all of that was reduced to nothing. All that money they had squirreled away in an account couldn't buy you a quarter pound of butter. And these two events traumatized them. And then came the Great Depression of 1929, and it took them over the hill. But through the whole 20s, what was alive and creative in Germany was socialism. It was what
Okay, but that's not the case in America today.
Replaced,
or in the past fucking 100 years even,
the defeated, discredited German aristocracy. Kaiser Wilhelm, the emperor of Germany, until the defeat of that country in World War I. So the socialists were everywhere. Music, art, culture, politics, socialism. And Mr. Hitler made the decision that to build up his movement, even though it was the opposite of socialism. Hitler hated the Soviet Union, which is where socialism had won the governmental power.
Okay, what would be the equivalent of that today? Do we hate China? Is that why I'm called a Chinese agent all the fucking time? By some of the retards who are orbiting the conservative movement in America?
Power in 1917. He hated the left. He hated socialism.
Hold on, wait. You know who else hated the fucking left? Lenin. You know who else hated the fucking left? Ernest Thälmann. That because the Social Democrats were the fucking left, Richard. Hating, why do people think the left is like this sacred cow? Oh, the left! Don't hurt the left! The left is fuck the left. They're always corrupt. They're always the first ones. They tried to kill Lenin. Literally, they put a bullet in him. They were the first ones to betray the Soviets, the Soviet power and the revolution. Don't say that Hitler was Hitler because he hated the left. It was the left that fucking enabled Hitler. Fucking social democrats who teamed up with the fucking establishment to clamp down on communists, preventing the only real alternative to fucking Hitler from ever having a chance. Richard Wolff, what do you think the left is in America? Can you point to me where the left in America is going to build a socialist movement? Because it's been a long time, Richard. I know you've been waiting. You're older than me, so you must have been waiting longer than me. Please point me in the direction of what potential the American left has to have anything to do with a resurgent socialist or communist movement. Please point me in that direction.
Fought against it, had been involved in violent efforts against it. But he knew that to build a movement, he had to somehow tap into it. So he chose as the name for his political party the National Socialist German Workers' Party. That was the full name of his party, because the first word, nationalist, in German is National, and the first four letters are N-A-Z-I. That's why it's called the Nazi Party. But the fact that Mr. Hitler took the name...
Thank you so much, Chris.
The left has to be the craziest holy cow of all time in Western culture. The ultimate false idol.
Yeah, really. For real.
Socialist fooled very few people in Germany. It didn't make much difference. And the very people...
He's 80 plus, Haas. Give the old wizard a break. Yeah, yeah. But it's like, if he knew what evil he's enabling, I think he would understand my anger is justified. He just doesn't know. But shouldn't he be, like, humble enough to be aware? I feel like it's a supreme arrogance to just assume there's no evil happening among us, you know, Zoomers or whatever, or young millennials. I don't really identify as a fucking millennial. I'm 26, so I choose Zoomer.
He began working with, who were interested in socialism, were ejected from the Nazi Party, often with violence, in the years later on in the 1920s. So don't be fooled by Maga communism. Yes, it's a clever putting together of things that don't fit. It will get you some attention for a while.
Thank you,
You took
MIT.
away one doctor's credentials. Is it time for another?
Well, I would be interested in setting up a discussion with Professor Wolff. My track record in defending him is there, so I do respect him. I've always combated disrespect against him. So I would like to have a discussion with Mr. Richard Wolff, and I would like to know how I could set that up.
But there's nothing in Mr. Trump or the Maga movement that is anything other than fundamentally hostile to almost everything that socialism has meant or could mean.
What about a movement for the working class? What about like reindustrialization? What about non-interventionism, at least, right? What about fighting corruption and bureaucracy? Maybe those have something to do with socialism, or what socialism could mean.
If discussions like this clarify issues for you, and we hope they do, and that's why we make them, then please partner with us. Share this video with others who might be interested.
Well, that's that. This is like a nightmare. I don't know what this is. It's just what? There's windows now? Just, you know what I mean? Anyway, we are going to get right into the Patreon. Actually, there's a few things. There's a lot of things I have to cover. Ah, yes. There's one more thing I have to show you from the boomer crowd. Things, I mean, I will show you shit you would not believe. You'll see things you can't believe, okay? I mean, wow, like those kinds of things, right? Someone link me the tweet, and this is a real tweet. So I can't dig through his timeline to find the tweet. So remember our good friend Geoff Young. Geoff Young, you know, the guy who mocked Dario Dugina and attacked us, but then lost very badly. So first is, I want to say, a lot of you guys were knocking, I remember, knocking pretty hard on the Yankee Tanky. And you were saying things like, oh, Yankee Tanky's asking people for money. Well, I think you had Yankee Tanky mixed up for Geoff Young. A lot of you are like, oh, Yankee Tanky's just like a bum who just like goes around and asks people for money. Then what does that make this guy? So first of all, Geoff Young's on some hard times. He was so confident in his position. He failed, so he spent all his money and he's asking for money now. Because his retirement savings are jeopardized. So there's Geoff Young. But then this is not what I wanted to show you, actually. I wanted to show you this. Mods, if you can link me the tweet to this, so I can show the tweet on stream. So nobody will accuse me of showing a Photoshop tweet. It's not Photoshopped. And he wasn't trolling, actually. Geoff Young is so butthurt about MAGA communism. He has single-handedly coined the worst ideology in America. And I mean it. Geoff Young, by some magic, has actually, like, unlocked the secret of American Azov. Geoff Young is practicing some kind of, like, esoteric Nazism, esoteric Hitlerism, where, like, he has found all of the right codes to mesh together the exact signifier for the genesis of the American Azov. You could not have a worse combination than Democrats for DeSantis.
Can't believe Jeff is asking for money on stolen land. Shake my head.
Yeah, but this is even more shocking. Thank you so much for the 5. But this is even more shocking. I mean, like, I cannot believe he wasn't trolling, but it's serious. Democrats for DeSantis. So I will give you Geoff's reasoning. Geoff says that DeSantis is the only one who can beat Trump. And we need to prioritize beating Trump because Trump is a war criminal. And DeSantis is not a war criminal. So Geoff Young claims that Trump committed war crimes and DeSantis has not yet. So Geoff said, you can say that DeSantis will do it, but he hasn't done it yet, which means he's only a potential war criminal. And potential war criminals are not as bad as real war criminals, and therefore DeSantis is better than Trump. And to that I would say autism is a crisis. But Geoff Young may have autism, and he's putting puzzle pieces together. And it's like a puzzle, and he's just slamming it on there with macaroni and cheese and everything glued on. And it's a beautiful... Don't let anyone tell you it's not beautiful, Geoff Young. Everyone's special. That's a beautiful work of art you just made. Beautiful work of art. Now, to address the airtight form of reasoning, I'm the only one who like argues with these people, right? Joff, you have not yet once attempted to actually engage in an analysis of what social forces are behind DeSantis versus Trump and what relation those social forces have to the causes of imperialism. Now, calling Trump a war criminal because he was president and therefore was vested with the symbolic authority with which to authorize criminal acts is one thing, but the question of actually evaluating the root causes and the real forces driving the carrying out of such acts is where you stop short. It's where you fall short. You can call Trump a war criminal and DeSantis is not a war criminal because DeSantis hasn't had the opportunity to be president yet. But when you actually evaluate what social forces are aligned with DeSantis versus Trump, you can have a very clear picture of which ones are more likely to seek, for example, a peaceful solution to the Ukraine crisis. Who wants war with Russia, Trump or DeSantis? DeSantis. Who wants war in general, Trump or DeSantis? DeSantis. The reason is because Trump is able to act within his capacity as a reasonable man who can very clearly see that interventionism doesn't benefit the American worker or the American people. DeSantis, regardless of his individual use of reason, is beholden to the special interests who, by virtue of their class interests and by virtue of their economic necessities, need to maintain the imperial system and therefore commit war crimes. So, Geoff, you're kind of, I guess I have a kind of like rationalist critique of your retarded empiricism. DeSantis hasn't committed war crimes yet, but Trump has, so DeSantis is better. Let's forget about like who props up DeSantis and what DeSantis represents, and like who is bringing DeSantis to power and what he literally says he would intend to do, and his fucking voting record in Congress. Let's forget all that shit. So, Geoff Young. You know what, Geoff Young? I'm going to actually, let's just like do this, right? Let's have this debate. I'll have it with you right now. So, Geoff Young. Let's say there's a guy named who was such a Nazi. His name was Adolf Hitler Klansman. First name Adolf, middle name Hitler, last name Klansman. And he has a giant swastika tattooed on his back. And he has a giant portrait of Hitler tattooed like around his balls, where the mustache is his ball sack and like the nose is his dick, and like it's a huge Hitler in color painting. Okay? And he also has the N-word tatted on his chest. And he's a skinhead, he's bald, and he wears the boots. And he wears a shirt that says, "I hate the Jews." And on the back of his shirt, it just had a picture of Hitler. And he wore a swastika hat with a swastika on, and he had a Hitler mustache. And he wore assless chaps with an SS rune on one cheek and a swastika on another. And he got a surgery to make his right arm permanently in a state of Nazi saluting, like he's saluting the Sieg Heiling thing in a Nazi way, and he got a fucking surgery where the only sound he can pronounce from his throat is Saig Heil. And he got a reverse circumcision because he hated Jews so much that he decided to get uncircumcised. And he borrowed, he killed his own father to steal his father's dick meat to put on his own. And that was his way of getting back at the Jews. Okay. And he had an 88 and he had a 14 in one eye and an 88 in the other eye. Okay. So this is literally like the maximum Adolf Hitler to the supreme person. And he ran for president. And he said he wants to nuke all non-whites and he wants to do Hitler 2.0. And he wants to make America Nazi Germany again and send people to camps. Okay? In all seriousness, according to Geoff Young's logic, I'm not kidding. Geoff Young is actually saying that this guy, Adolf Hitler Klansman, is better than Trump because Trump committed war crimes and Adolf Hitler Klansman did not. So intentionality means nothing. This guy is literally Hitler 2. It's literally Hitler 2, okay? And Geoff Young would still support him because he has not yet committed crimes. I don't know about that, Geoff Young. I don't know about that logic there. I think it's kind of, I think that's kind of like a little bit off the mark in terms of, I mean, it kind of seems like a really stupid form of reasoning to me. But that's just me. It just kind of doesn't add up, in my opinion. It's like, how does that really add up? It doesn't. It doesn't. But according to Geoff Young's impeccable logic, that Adolf Hitler 2 should be elected over Donald Trump because he didn't commit war crimes yet. Okay? So this is what Geoff Young is doing now. And I think that is a really disgraceful way to go down. Talk about fall from grace. And I want to prop this up as like a teachable moment. This is the fate of every hater of infrared. Everyone who betrays infrared goes down this path. Everyone who betrays infrared will meet this fate. You fuck with infrared, yeah, the left will love you at first, and then you'll become like Geoff Young, an irrelevant bitch for the rest of your life. You can just become like Johnny Socialism and Andrew Soitern and literally bitch about me until your dying day while accomplishing nothing and being a loser bitch forever. You can cope with it in their way and make like millions of alt accounts, which Elon Musk is going to purge anyway. But you will never be a successful person if you fucking betray me. Period. If you snake me, you're fucked for life. Whether you're a hate stalker of mine, or whether you're like Geoff Young, and this is what you do. This is the fate that awaits every fucking wrecker and traitor. This is the fate that awaits them. They lose, they become retarded mentally, and their dick shrinks by 5 inches. Which means he grew a vagina. Because it went inward. Because it wasn't even 5 to begin with. And there you have it. Okay? There you have that. Now, before we get into the Patreon Q&A, I would like to briefly make an observation about something. and it's related to Destiny and the DGG community. Now, I've been getting a lot of YouTube recommends in the past few days about some drama going on in that community. So Destiny, as we know, he has all these orbiters. I'm just gonna make a brief observation. He's got all these orbiters, and it's like there's drama and shit. And I got intrigued because I was like, I remember when I was on Twitch and those people like couldn't crack 100 views, and now like Destiny uses them for content. And a part of me was kind of like fascinated, if I'm gonna be honest. I was kind of like, I was like, it's kind of like incestuous. It's like cannibalistic. He's like using his own orbiters for content. And then I was like, and then they create all this drama around what? I still don't know what the drama's about. The videos are like so long that I get recommended. I don't watch all of them. But I skim through them, some of them. Like, okay, one of them, to be honest. Not all of them. Or not some, like one, right? But apparently this is what's going on in that community for content. And I don't want to end up that way, right? Because we are IGG, right? So apparently, the drama is about friendship. So like everyone is like, oh, I'm your friend. Oh, are you my friend? And then like everyone's just like arguing about friendship. And I don't know how anyone gives a fuck. I mean, who gives a fuck, right? Like, I thought, like, is this about anything real? It's like, because it's supposed to be like reality TV, but it's like on the internet. So my advice is for you could probably afford it. Get a mansion and actually make a reality TV show, and you'll probably get like 50,000 views. Okay, because this shit where people are like having drama over fucking Discord calls, that will never have appeal beyond like the most hardcore, right? How could it, dude? Who gives a... It's like you're literally talking on the computer. Who gives a fuck? Just turn your computer off, right? But I don't ever want to have orbiters. Me, Jackson, and Zerka, we don't orbit. We're like equals. Even though we don't have equal amount of views, we have equal manhood and boundaries. Like, we don't tolerate disrespect. We don't like kiss up to each other or any shit. Like, we talk shit to each other, we make fun of each other, and we disagree all the time on shit, and that's why we're actually like friends. But I never want to grow to the size of having orbiters. I feel like, you know what, I'm gonna say some shit, right? I feel like they're like a cult over there. Like, we're communists and we're totalitarian, but aren't we so fucking individualistic? Aren't we so individualistic? Is infrared. Like, first of all, I hate everyone. I'm sorry. I like you guys a lot. I just don't know you. And every time and you guys, I know some of you in the chat that I see all the time. And I remember some of you from Twitch. And I know the RTSG people. And I know some of you. But, like, I don't talk. It's not like I'm like, I don't really hang out with you guys. And I'm sorry for that. But it's like, that's just because, like, I'm a loner. And when I hang out with Jackson, it's just when I go see him. But, like, I leave you guys alone, basically. I don't, like, interfere in your lives. I don't really know anything about your guys' lives, I leave all you guys alone. And I take your money and I use it to stream more with better streams. And then I yell at people. And then you guys give me money and I just keep doing this, right? But we're very individualistic. Because, like, we don't, like, what's this shit people do? Like, oh, are you really my friend or are you not my friend? What the fuck? I don't have friends. I have allies and enemies. We're fighting a war. You know, we're supposed to be the cult, right? This is why I think they're a cult over there. Because I'm the Khan. You guys refer to me as the Khan. Okay? And I demand tribute. When I log into the Minecraft, I kill everyone and I take everyone's shit for 5 minutes and then I leave. And everyone must obey the Khan. Everyone must respect the Khan. But then I leave you alone, and I don't take it farther. I leave you alone, okay? And then you guys have so much freedom, you know? You have so much freedom. It's like I'm a boss. I'm a boss. But all I demand is my authority. That's it. Okay? We're not equal. I am the Khan. Okay? I will ban anyone for any reason, anything at all. I will ban you. Okay? You have no rights in this community at all. There's no orbiters. There's no orbiters. There's gorillas and the Khan. And the Khans. There's multiple Khans. But they don't stream. So I'm the Khan that you see. Okay? I'm the Khan. Okay? Gorillas and the Khan. Okay? And I mainly Oz spends the money on Uber Eats and Airbnb. Retard. If I'm fucking homeless, where will I stay but a fucking Airbnb? Does this look like a fucking Airbnb to you, you fucking retard? It's not. Fucking idiot. You know what? Ban that fucking guy. I don't want to see him ever again. I'm sick of fucking stupid people. I'm sick of them. I'm done with them. I'm done giving them second chances. Mods, get rid of that fucking guy, okay? Anyway. Alright? So as I was saying, this is an extreme dictatorship, and yet under the extreme dictatorship, you guys have more individual liberty than anyone else. What the fuck? We actually, let you be an individual. I don't... Do what you want, dude. I don't give a fuck. Imagine if there was drama between me and orbiters. What? I know you guys aren't like that. I've met you guys in real life. You're not like that. You guys would be like, what? What do you mean? Thank you, Forky. Appreciate you, man. Thank you so much. Yo, Forky, dude, I know you.
2024 fight for a prosperous America of the people down with the democratic globalist Bilderberg Rockefeller agenda. Unionize the streamers and baristas to revitalize our goods and services to give back to the real workers.
I don't know about unionization, but thank you so much, Forky, for the 20. And guys, I know Forky because I met Forky in real life at TwitchCon. And Forky, this dude Forky, is this, he's like a Nordic, he's like a Nordic, he's like a Nordic, what do you call it? Elite warrior. He's like an elite Nordic, you know what I mean? Like, this dude is I'm just gonna be real, he looks like the stereotypical master race. Okay? That's what I was trying to say. And I say that as a Mediterranean who is supposed to not be allied with the Nordic people. But this dude is like the real deal. Okay? So, yeah. I gotta say it. All those Aryan people who are like, oh, the Aryans. I say, okay. And then Forky, and I'm like, oh, you know what? Okay, I guess you got a point there, right? Because this dude, he's like, what? Giant. He's built as fuck. Anyway, shout out Forky. Great guy. No, in all seriousness, Forky's a cool guy. He's a cool guy, right? But Forky's from Zerka's community, right? And we just do not have ugly people in our community. We just don't. in our community. We just don't. Thank you so much, Emila.
Gorillas in the mist. Gorilla. Sun. Gorilla. Sun.
Appreciate you. Anyway, what the fuck was I saying? I got what was I saying before? As I was saying, I would never have orbiters in this community. Okay? This is what I look at. Forky is the elite of Anglos. He's the Anglo elite. That's what I was trying to say. He's the Anglo elite. Anyway. I could not have that whole setup because it's like, I'm a dictator, but the dictator doesn't control everything because the dictator doesn't give a fuck. Right? If you guys came to me like, Khan, is it moral for... I was like, I don't give a fuck, bitch. Figure it out yourself. Anyway, that's our community, right? It's just a dictatorship. That's it. I don't share power with orbiters and like do all this fucking... Well, I still don't know what the drama's about. You know, it's like, is something real happen or is it just like, are we friends or no? Anyway, dude, I'm gonna talk shit about the orbiters of Destiny's orbiters. How can you be a man and be irrelevant in childlike? So as far as I know, Destiny's here, and he's got like a harem, and he just like fucks all these bitches, right? And then irrelevant and Chud Logic just stand there. Do they get anything? Do the guys get anything? No, they don't, dude. It's fucking... Oh my god, how could... It's like the most degrading thing you could do, you know? It's literally, dude, it's literally like that, right? He's got all these bitches, which... Ain't nothing wrong with that. Well, I mean, I don't know. I think he's a coomer. That's unhealthy. I don't promote that, but... But that's, you know, a man can have multiple bitches. But to be an orbiter who's just watching another man with all these... Does fucking Supreme, Wicked Supreme, does he get pussy? Does he get anything? I don't think he does. I think he gets nothing. I think they just stand there and watch. And they just look awkward like that. Because I haven't looked into the drama. I don't care about it. But I think it's about Destiny, like, sleeping around or some shit. I don't know. It's like he's fucking too many bitches or something, right? And if that's the drama, why are there other men involved? Like, are you guys getting any pussy? Like, what are you guys doing? You guys just, I don't know. What do they do? Do they just have the towel and they wipe afterwards? I could see how Relevant doing that. I could see how Relevant and Chud Logic just standing like this and they have the towel. And when Destiny's done, they're like, Sire, would you like me to wipe you down? Or wipe your lady down? And they're just standing there, standing to attention. I could see that. Dude, I would choose death over that fucking dishonor. Imagine dishonoring your father by doing that shit. Dude, imagine being a father's son and talking to your dad and being like, yo, I'm an orbiter. What? Yo, dad, I'm like an orbiter for this streamer. What? You know what I mean? This is like the most dishonorable thing in the world. And be like, oh, you're a Zerka orbiter. No, I'm not. Bitch. I call Zerka every day and call him a retard. And me and Zerka fight every fucking month. And why do me and Zerka stop fighting and we get over it? I think I hear something. I don't know. I think I heard something. We do because like equal respect. Nobody does that apologizing. We don't ever, we don't ever apologize, right? Nobody does that shit. Like me and Zerka, we get into a severe disagreement and then we forget about it because we're both too busy to remember anything, So we just forget about it. Because it's like, yeah. But how much of Zerka's content is about me? How much of my content is about Zerka? How much of my content is about anyone else who I'm allied with? Almost no one. You want to know the test of me being allied with someone? This is such a fucking big point. You want to know the test? You cannot be friends with someone and dedicate your streams to them. I swear to fucking God, there's something about covering people on stream that is inherently disrespectful. You cannot be friends with someone and cover them on your stream. That's what I realized. If I had Zerka in my stream title, I would feel like such a snake. If I had Jackson in my stream title, and it's not a debate, like Jackson Hingle versus whatever, and that I'm not featuring them, like streaming with Zerka or streaming with Jackson. If I was covering them, like, oh, John Zerka drama or Jackson Hinkle drama, if I did that, I would feel like a snake. Because I'm like, dude, I know these people. I just call them. Like, yo, what's up? What's going on? Why would I cover them to a fucking anonymous audience? Why would I sell out my friends to a fucking anonymous audience and dispense judgment to strangers on the fucking internet about people I know in real life? Would you do a stream about your real life friends? Would you do a stream about like your brother or your sister or your family? No, you wouldn't. So orbiters are inherently snakes when you think about it. They're inherently snakes. Because how the fuck can you make your streaming content about someone you're friends with personally? That is so weird. And I'm not saying talk about them to tell a funny story. I'm saying like cover them. Like that's all you have. What? Something fucking disrespectful about that. Even when I cover President Putin, I can't be friends with Putin. I'm covering him. Like, yeah, like I'm not against Putin, but it's like, dude, Putin, I don't know you personally. You're a fucking world leader, and I'm going to judge you as an anonymous stranger because I don't fucking know you, and you're the president of Russia. But if I knew Putin personally as my friend, could I really like dedicate streams about his personal life? No, I couldn't. That'd be like a big form of betrayal, right? Every big streamer does that. I think streamers who are actually friends don't talk about each other that much. That something I've learned from the streaming business behind the scenes is that you don't actually know who the like biggest friendships are, like the biggest friends are. Because they tend not to talk about each other that much. Now they'll mention each other to tell stories, but they won't talk about each other. Like they won't talk about each other. Like to a neutral audience. So yeah. And also and one exception is they might do content together. If you're doing content together, that's different. That's not the same. Right? If you're streaming together in real life or even on the internet, that's different. If you're streaming together, it's different. Right? So, yeah, I think that's a real thing. Anyway, guys, we're going to head right into the Patreon Q&A. So there's going to be one last chance for anyone who wants to get a question in, because I'm going to be doing that now. But before I do it, I'm going to quickly grab a bottle of water. And we don't actually have that many questions. That's fine. Well, you have one last opportunity to ask a question, because I'm going to refresh the page when I get back. I'm going to grab a bottle of water. It's going to be really quick, though. It's going to be like 10 seconds. So... All right, let's get right into the Q&A. Okay. Thank you so much for being a patron, Net Evangelist. Appreciate you so much. Yo, long time patron, first time questioner. I was raised in a secular household. I'm going to just bring this here. I was raised in a secular household, but ended up veering toward Christianity due to cultural influences online. I've had a few moments in my life which I've decided whether I fear God's judgment or whether I fear death, and I chose God's judgment because I started believing in God. One influence was watching the movie Al Hazard Balthazar, an overtly Christian film that moved me watching it as a young man. I haven't fully committed myself to Christianity, but I'm wondering, if I ever wanted to explore Islam, where would I start? I can read the Quran, but is there art or other writings that could sway me? Is there an Al Hazard Balthazar for Islam? No disrespect to other religions, but to me Christianity and Islam seem most correct. I want to give Islam a fair chance. What would you recommend? Really interesting question. There's a movie I forgot about. It's old though. The message. Is it called The Message or is it The Messenger? I think, is it called The Messenger or is it called The Message? I think it's called The Messenger, right? Movie. No, it's called The Message. Okay. Yeah, the most popular one is called The Message. It's called The Message. What's the one about? Oh, that's the one about the Libyan war. The Lion of the Desert. Oh, it's the same guy. Interesting. Yeah, it's called The Message. I think that's the most popular one. But I honestly wish there was better stuff. Because I don't think there's a lot that really encapsulates Islam all that well. Not a lot seems to encapsulate it all that well, if I'm being honest. Thank you so much, Janar. Appreciate it. Appreciate you being a patron. How would you design or plan an average 2036 American homestead? The beauty of America is that I think there would be a lot of room for people to design their own. I wouldn't have to design one. But I don't know. I think as far as what they would have access to, probably high-speed internet, probably one of the most important things. They would be on the grid. Possibly have a 3D printer. And hell, why don't they just drill their own oil? Just kidding. But I don't know. Maybe they have their own mini nuclear reactors or some shit. I don't know. That's not 2036. That's like 2096. I'm not sure. The proverbial plot of land. It's tough. Start with land. Agriculture, right? Isaiah, thanks for so much being a patron. What are your opinions on the Soviet Union's role in Xinjiang separatism? I'm opposed to it. But what do you mean? Yeah, the Soviet Union, it's in the context of the Sino-Soviet split and even before. The Soviet Union had some chauvinistic tendencies when it came to China. It didn't trust the Chinese to build their own communist civilization. The Soviets thought whatever was in their control, it's better because we're communist and we're the authority, right? On what communism is. Thank you so much, Roxaw, for being a patron. Professor Wolff recently answered a question over determinism. He claimed that it's impossible to understand all the causes leading up to an effect. All we have are competing stories we tell, regardless of how long ago the effect happened. Do you agree? Or is retrocausality the missing piece? Retrocausality is the missing piece. The effect engenders or participates in its own cause is the real solution. An effect is defined by the limit of its own cause. That's how you would put it. The necessity of an effect is defined by a limit. Fair, thank you so much for being a patron. Is sci-fi inherently a satanic genre? No, I think sci-fi is inherently a socialist realist genre in the age of the 21st century. It trends too far into science worship. No, I think science fiction has a strong theological component when it's properly science fiction. The minute it gets into this many worlds, even many worlds theory is theological. It's just pagan. So science fiction is definitely a domain within which theological questions can be explored in a non-vulgar way. How should American communists proceed with union work, especially with independent new unions? In real proletarian industries, not Starbucks. In industries that already are unionized, there's not much you can do. In ones that have yet to be unionized, which are also paradigmal, I think it's worthwhile pursuing the question of forming new unions. Allende, thank you so much for being a patron. What makes Vaporwave a fascist genre? The way Vaporwave abstracts, I'd put it in this way. Vaporwave takes the content out of content. Vaporwave will abstract things, whether they're Roman statues from thousands of years ago, or cars, or literally anything, abstracts them and aesthetically premises them based on the artifice of some digital or hyper modern perspective. And I think that's exactly what fascists did when it came to their myths. Whereas you have people like, the avant-garde, Soviet avant-garde, constructivists and formalists, they were different. They kind of were dealing with shapes and the question of abstraction in and of itself. But Vaporwave, it's like it takes real things, substantive things, abstracts them, preserves their form, while repressing their content. So repression of content, preservation of form. I think that's probably where the fascist... And I don't just mean to say this because Vaporwave was popular among the alt-right and what have you. I think inherently there's something Azovite about it. Something gross and something perverse. That's what I would say. Janar, thank you so much for being a patron. What is the real justification for the synthetic a priori? And is an analytic a posteriori possible? My understanding has always, and I know Kant probably does provide a justification for the necessity of the synthetic a priori, but qua what? Only with regard to the view that the world is rational and coherent and meaningful, all even, right? If you were to adopt a position of like radical skepticism, is this position tenable? Well, tenable under what? Tenable with what strings attached? Is what I would say. So my understanding is that Kant provided a solution, not so much a justification. He provided a solution to Hume's problem of induction. I think he was responding to a problem and saying the problem can be resolved in this way. You think about it in this way. We're just thinking about it in the wrong way. Kant was discovering something, not really. It's really dumb when people try to apply like the scientific method to philosophy. Like, how can you prove it? I don't.
What are your thoughts on
PJ?
Ron DeSantis? And you are right about Kant. And Lacan inherited Kant's mantle.
Thank you so much, PJ. DeSantis is a bastard, and I talked about him a lot early in the stream. I'm really against DeSantis. Thank you, Janar. No, sorry. Thank you all that is solid for being a patron. What do you think of C. Wright Mills? I've never heard of that guy. Let me look him up. He was a sociologist. I don't know what he was known for. I'd have to look into it. Johnny, thanks so much for being a patron. Why do conservatives care so much about illegal immigration? Because they feel it's like on a very personal level. It's a violation of the their sovereignty, right? It's people taking advantage of them somehow. Which, I mean, You have to always begin tabula rasa. Begin from the perspective of someone not infected with the intentionality of an ideology. Understand people's feelings, uninhibited or unaffected by some ideology which gaslights us about how we really feel about things. How do you really feel about illegal immigration? You don't know. Because we've all become educated to the point where we've lost touch with our own feelings about the world. Demian, thank you so much for being a patron. What's the deal with H.R. Geiger? Oh, the biomechanical artist. I don't think Hellraiser is biomechanical, but biomechanical probably is popular in an age where the ability to distinguish biological from cybernetic systems seems to be increasingly difficult. I think that's probably has something to do with it. To what extent is our paradigm of biology itself shaped by our current level of productive forces? Mouse, thanks so much for being a patron. Do you have an opinion on Marx's mathematical writings? Yes, he made contributions, actually, to the sphere of mathematics. Yes, I do. Marx had interesting things to say about math. It's just things I forgot. I did forget them, though. Sorry. I think they were about differentials and derivatives. Differential calculus, right? That's what it was about. Tom, can you elaborate on why you are attracted to monotheism and reject polytheism? Is God a personal being, or is he an impersonal ground of being? The question is, how does personality arise from the impersonal ground? I think there you will find God. I think it's probably a unity between the two. An impossible unity between the two. So impossible it must be God. Finn, thank you so much for being a patron. Did the Bolsheviks have... Is God a being that subsumes personality as a mere attribute? Or is God a personality for which being is merely an attribute? I think God is the unity of personality and being itself. Neither one or the other. Thank you so much, Finn, for being a patron. Sorry, guys, I just was thinking about something. Did the Bolsheviks have a regional power base prior to the Russian Revolution? Somewhat, yes. Do you think there's a strategic advantage of consolidating communist influence in new areas and spreading from there? There is, and they did have regional power base. They did. Chivato, thanks for being a patron. Thoughts on opinions on Amon Bundy? Who? I don't know what that is. American anti-government militant and activists. I don't know, dude. When was this? He was the 2014 guy about the GMOs. Oh, Cliven Bundy. I know Cliven Bundy. Oh, interesting. I don't know if I can talk about that. Interesting. Boki, thank you so much for being a patron. In your VOD, what is communism? You said one thing in common between all the other socialists is that they were all against private property, and you said the reason for that, pretty much the exact quote, is that if we are going to organize society from scratch in order to conform to the social substance, it has to be done from the perspective of the whole rather than apart. That didn't really make any sense to me. I have noticed how all of these abolition of private property, but I don't understand how they mean by private property, and I believe they use it differently than the way we use it today. No, it's the same way. Furthermore, I didn't understand what you meant when you said that it has to be done from the perspective of the whole rather than the part. I don't see what that has to do with abolishing or even being critical of private property in the context of the emergence of capitalism or modernity, since private property isn't a new phenomena that was brought about by modernity. Right, but private property that exists for its own sake was something new. Because that's what capital is. It's money, commodity money, right? So that is something new, and you don't see what it has to do with abolishing private property. Okay. If you decide that you want to organize all of society from the perspective of one consciousness and one perspective, which is the insight into the common interest, the whole, and people own shit with which they have the sovereignty to do whatever they please, that's a problem. Because people can use property for selfish... Thank you, Yeast.
Programming is very Anglo-boxed. It's about rationally creating a system of abstract boxes. Do you think dialectical programming is possible? How? Could machine learning be a step towards it?
Probably quantum computing or some shit. I don't know, man. Thank you for the dono. Boki. Since people can be selfish, they can use their private property for selfish ends. Right? So there will be no sovereignty of the commons if there's private property. Because people own shit which they can use in ways that doesn't have to conform to the interests of the whole. So that's the context. I mean, like, what does abolishing private property even mean? Think about it. What do you mean by that? That everyone owns it? That's the whole owning it then, right? Okay, that's the perspective of the whole. There you go. Like, I don't know what meaning abolishing private property could possibly have except that. I don't understand your confusion. I'm sorry. Trying to understand it, I just don't. I mean, private property isn't a new phenomenon, but modernity is a new phenomenon. So the view that there's a socius in the abstract is a new phenomena. Finally, private property for its own sake is also a new phenomenon, and they're both related. They're both related in ways that Marx points out very clearly. Private. A lot of people don't understand private property is not about power and abuses of power. Not about, oh, people own this and they're abusing their power by owning it. No. That's a political perspective. Private property for Marx and Engels is singular. So there's private property on the one hand and there's the socius on the other. It's not there's a group of people selfishly hoarding things at the expense of the whole. There's, through the division of labor, humanity divides itself from itself. And one aspect of humanity, this is Marx's view of alienation, humanity becomes alienated from itself and devotes a portion of itself to something other, right? And there's actually a Satanist interpretation of this that some communists do subscribe to, according to which that other is God, right? And the basis of private property is God. It's kind of Feuerbach, it's kind of ambiguous with that, right? I don't think that's Marx's view, though. I think it's not so much that humanity divides itself, devotes a portion of itself to otherness, given that that is just there is an otherness with regard to humanity. It's a part of humanity. Otherness is part of humanity if you're dialectical. I think it's more the case that we kind of reify this otherness. That's why I belong to the revelatory tradition. Like, only revelation stands as a countervailing force toward reification of divinity. Like, we reify the divine into an idol. Thank you, Sick.
Nuanced takes are what's missing in our movement. Elitists will divide us by any means. Maga communism is a direct threat to them bottled up in a concise rhetorical package. Let's connect like sideburns.
Thank you so much, Sick Komodo. Appreciate you, man, for the 5. But it's like, the idolatry where we reify otherness and reify the divine is more so what we're talking about here. That's why in the Jewish religion, you cannot say the name of God. Sorry. Yes, you cannot say one of the names of God, at least one of them. Because even saying, this is my interpretation, I don't know. Or you can't write it, I don't know. Because this would be a form of reification, right? You would be trying to incarnate finitely the essence of God. God cannot, if God is to be God, it cannot be fully knowable to us. So, but the problem with private property is that it is a form, it's an institution that is testament to our conceit, to the conceit about what we think we know. Orvo, thank you so much for being a patron. Can you explain how you interpret the allegory of Adam and Eve? How do I interpret the allegory of Adam and Eve? I mean, it's the origin of humanity, man and woman. I'm not sure what else I can do. Or you mean like the story with the snake and all this stuff? I don't think I have an interpretation that I've ever thought about all that much. Like knowledge being the cause of our fall from grace probably is the biggest one. Great, that I think this is strongly situates the Abrahamic tradition on the side of the heart and intuition over knowledge. It's like a saying of a famous Islamic cleric, I remember, is like, only the mind plays tricks because the heart always tells the truth. Benign, thanks for being a patron. What would you say is your main theoretical difference from Logo? Oh. I don't. Is there one? I can't really think of one. I'm not. Maybe our probably the Lacan shit. Probably that's it. Probably that. You know all the media theory stuff, Lacan and all this French bullshit, right? Well, I don't think it's bullshit, but most people do. So yeah, probably that stuff. Which I don't really blame him for disagreeing with me about. I am not I'm not here to like sell people on that shit. I want to produce results, and that's the extent of its merit. Actually, is it's based in results. It's not based in the fact that I like these French people on a personal level. These French thinkers. I mean, I love French people. Don't worry. Put the croissants down. Okay. All right, guys. Now, it is pretty prescient and pretty important for me to point out that there is one thing that you should be pessimistic about as far as the future of infrared is concerned. I'm moving in right now. I'm going to be on my grind set every day. But there's one thing you have to really be pessimistic about. Infrared is, this is the one thing that will destroy infrared, and it'll destroy Haas forever. And what is that? Well, I hate to say it, but